Yeah, I had to put that on widescreen for a sec there, just to big up that DNA, boy. Black Eyed Style putting that intro together. What's going on, mother lovers? We are back again. That's right. It's some time for some stuff you might not know nothing about. That's right. Something you might not know nothing about. I'm your host. My name is MysDiggi. You like the way I'm keeping it? You know what I mean? I'm making sure I don't swear to start off with, because the first hour, we like to keep it clean for the kids, you know. It's about that time you're trying to put them to bed, aka watershed. I still don't understand fully what the hell watershed means, because when you shed water, the only thing I can think of is piss in the bed. But I'm here with my co-host Dandy.
Hold on, everyone. That's it.
Yo, what's going on, mother lovers? This is none other than some stuff you might not know nothing about. That's right, something you might not know nothing about. I am your co-host, MysDiggi. Anti-lying. I am actually your host.
The first bit
This is my co-host right here. So what, they didn't hear anything I said then?
No, well, haha, big joke. we mimed the whole beginning bit, so...
That's hilarious, boy. Yo, that's how we
catch
do,
it on
man.
the replay when you'll get the subtitles for what we were saying.
Yeah, I said some really deep stuff as well.
Yeah, that's
man.
probably the best bit of the show.
That was
probably
heartfelt.
actually it's probably the best bit of any of the shows.
I was saying some heartfelt shit. I'm actually glad you lot didn't hear that shit anyway. So
yeah.
If you want to go back and try lip read, you can. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. But yo, I was letting people know that we're glad to be back here for another week of something special. We're just waiting for our guests to get into the guest room. You know what I mean? Hopefully that will happen soon. But in the meantime, myself, MysDiggi, my co-host Dan DNA, there's some stuff you might not know nothing about, or might not never know nothing about. I want to give a shout out to the common senses in the building. Shout out to my brother Turbolicious, Black Einstein. Shout out to Vinny B in the building. Vinny from the Bronx. What's good, bruv? Thanks for hooking this one up tonight as well. Shout out to Gleam. What's going on, bruv? Good to see you, man. Shout out to BLA. Yes. I love this name as well. BLA, big love always. Big love always. Sound. The 3 question marks. I'm wondering what I meant to say back. I don't know what to say back, but I love that name right there. Shout out to the crew locked in right about now. Yo, it's been a bit of a mad week, innit? Jesus Christ, hip-hop. I mean, Jesus Christ, sorry. Hip-hop has been... Yo, what the hell's going on out here, D? What are they trying to do to hip-hop all of a sudden, man? We're the bad guys again. Yeah, I was cool when I go to the airport. Cool, no one's looking at me like, what's he doing here? You know what I mean? Everything was cool. It was more, who people looking at now? I think they're looking at like more Asian people that are like wearing the whole, you know what I mean? Rona stuff, the gear.
Yeah.
I don't know, have you seen it? Like where people, they're like going traveling in like hazmat suit kind of.
I've seen photos of it, but yeah, I haven't seen anyone in public.
I've got photos of it. I might have shown you, but I saw it like in my. I was like, what?
What, people with the full?
Yeah, bruv, gloves, mask, but
triple
all
mask,
full attire.
Single mask, triple mask. What?
Could have been. I think it could have been.
But they've
double.
got another
Could have
thing
been
over
double.
the top of their head anyway. If they so sort
Bruv, and they're in. It's like they're in a enclosed umbrella or something that doesn't open, and they're just in it. You know what I mean? Take out all the wiring and all that, and they just get in, and then bam, and you're like, what the? So everyone else, you're cool. You two are cool because there's some dude and his chick.
Yeah.
You two are cool, but everyone else is fucked. Yeah, that's what you're saying. That's what you're saying to me. It was weird. It was weird, but you know, going back to this, obviously, you know what I mean? As a rapper, black guy, I was cool out there. It was cool for a couple years, man. And now. Jesus has gone and done this.
He's stacking the chips up again.
Jesus, man.
Things,
yeah. You know what I mean?
Been different if it was Eminem, white rapper, you know, like not so many bad cards, but now like you're being dealt.
I wonder how it would have worked out if it was Eminem. You know, like his fans, like Eminem type fans, like would they'll be like, they would just been, say.
We knew it.
Yo. Right, imagine. So what about Busta Rhymes fans? Ha! They'd be like, woo-ha! Got you on the check. Put it on top of the roof. Who else? Who else is fan? But yeah, Kanye West fans. Oh, sorry, Yeezus, Ye fans. Boy.
Yay? What is it?
Ye.
Ye?
It's Ye. It's Ye. I think it's Ye because it was
Ye.
Jesus, but it's Ye. Soon it's just gonna be like yeah.
Soon it's gonna be just like who?
Yo,
completely erased from.
So if you haven't heard this week over the last few days or so, Ye has been doing a Wiley. Did you say that?
Yes.
Yeah, say he's been doing a Wiley. Wiley kind of got into quite a bit of trouble for saying certain things, you know what I mean, about certain
criticizing
people.
the music industry.
Yeah, let's say it like that. Yeah, criticizing the music industry and how the music industry controls everything he does and makes loads of money off him that he doesn't see. And then he got cancelled and whatnot. And then lo and behold, you know what I mean? All of a sudden, Ye's on this, like the college dropout. What happened to all of that? Where's that Ye, man? This is like fashion Ye, I guess. But anyway, so he's caused a lot of hoo-ha and people can't stop talking about it. So we may as well just cover how we feel about it. And yeah.
In as guarded words as possible.
Yeah. Obviously, we're not trying to cause any trouble out here. Like, we don't know what, you know what I mean? What he's saying, he knows way more than us because he's in that industry and in that world.
Yeah.
He's, you know what I mean? We don't know what
he's in
secrets.
America. He's in ground zero.
Yeah, man. We don't know what secrets he's keeping. Do you know what I mean? Whether he's really telling us the truth or not.
Yeah.
Or whether he's even telling the whole truth or not. We don't have a clue. You know what I mean?
Nah.
But what we can see is how much people are really letting it get to them, which is a bit of a problem considering, just like us, you don't know what's true or not. You know what I mean? Like,
the thing is, we've heard all the stories about what goes on in the big industries and all that, and all we ever want is somebody to just sort of blow the whistle on it. Yeah,
tell us the truth,
but,
like what?
Yeah, but we never know what is. What's the extent of the truth? Really,
and
it's probably even worse than maybe he's allowed to come out with something because he hasn't seen as much as some other people have. But
I mean,
probably other people. I mean, it's funny that the Diddy involvement and the sort of gatekeeping aspect of Diddy. That you've talked about it before.
Yeah, they've cut him off.
Yeah,
they've done that. I mean, look, Diddy, man. Let's just lay it all out there, man.
Go on.
Do you know what I mean?
Go on.
Let's be honest. His rap sheet, you know what I mean? Not to part of the pod, but his rap sheet is pretty lengthy in terms of how many rappers have gone off and become something else other than who they were before. Do you know what I mean?
You went over this a few years back with me as well. About look at all the different people that he's affected their careers.
Then disappeared. Where's Total? Where's 112? You know what I mean? That's the R&B side, yeah? But then think about this, okay? Who do you know that they've got an artist that went to each religion like that? I think Hindu, you know what I mean? There's probably that's all that's left. Is like Hindu and probably Buddhism. But my man's had a rapper go off and be, full-on preacher, like pastor, so Christianity. Then he's had Shine go off and be Hasidic Jew, innit? He did the whole with the curls and the hat and everything. And then, what's the other one? Then you got, Loon. Loon went off to be a Muslim. Like hardcore Muslim with that. Everything, like, rah. And these are people that all like, popping bottles, shiny suit man with Diddy, then bam, 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 off there. G-Dep. This guy, do you know what he did? He put out a banging album, Child of the Ghetto, sick rapper, was doing well. Then all of a sudden, he kind of got jerked a little bit as well. I think his tune ended up on Diddy's album. It was the Special Delivery, I believe, which was a big tune. They done a remix and all that as well. But imagine that's one of your biggest tunes off your album. My man goes and puts it on the family album, like, whatever. But this guy, doing well, then all of a sudden turns himself in to the police because he remembered that he shot someone something like 14, 15 years ago or something like that. Or when he was that age maybe, but it was like a long time ago and that person died and he never, and he got away with it. What makes you do that? Like you know what I mean? Yeah. Shiny suit man, this, that. Like, I'm saying all that. But then look at all the artists, the Locks. Obviously we know what happened with Biggie. Where's Junior Mafia now? Do you know what I mean? You got to sit back. When you really look at the bigger picture, it's like, yo, what is going on? But who's still left? And there's a bunch of other rappers that ain't even mentioned that were on the Family, I think the album was called. But you had a bunch of other rappers. Some of them have gone on to do books and talk about, you know, what he's done. But yeah, no one knows.
Recovering from trauma books. How to find yourself again. After
dealing with Diddy. Life after dealing with Diddy. Yo, they all got sprinkled with Diddy dust, and no one knows what's going on with them anymore. That's all I'm saying. There's something going on out there. So yeah, shout out to Mr. Green in the building. Shout out to DJ Lock. Mr. Green says, watch Drink Champs. Did you watch Drink Champs? Bam, look, he's mentioned someone else, Craig Mack. Rest in peace. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a point that they were talking about Craig Mack was homeless and all that? Black Rob, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Yo, you want to get signed to Diddy? Hell no. I mean, running man emoji puffs. Nah, man, I'm good, bruv. You know what happens after that? That's like going out with the craziest chick you could think of, marrying her, having kids. You're gonna. That's it.
There's something that people see when they're with him that they turn to religion afterwards. They're like, I need to clean myself after whatever he's shown me, whatever
they needed the
depth that he's taken them to. They're like, I'm better off in prison. I'm better off in a religion. I'm going to go and hide in a monastery. I'm going to go to Mecca. I've got to clean my soul.
Ablution. I need an ablution. Yeah. Jeez, that's deep, boy.
And so, deep. And Nick Cannon, he done the same thing with Nick Cannon that he's doing to Yay.
Yay. Well, he's got the most fruit-filled what's your name? Yay. Right. All right, bro. But what's your name, though? Like, yo. So what? So now he's sprinkling Diddy dust on Nick Cannon?
No, he after Nick Cannon had his little rant last year or whatever it was, when he done a thing about the music industry and the people inside the music industry.
Yeah, about the music industry.
Diddy was the one who went to him and said, "Look, you need to.
Hey man, you better take your words
back."
Stroke this music industry.
Yeah. And then so then a couple of days later, Nick Cannon's apologising with a representative from the
music industry.
Yeah.
Interesting,
representative of a representative of the music industry apologising, saying, you know.
It is very interesting, man, what's going on. You know, a lot of people starting to speak out about the industry and the way that it's set up. And
it's funny how, like, same with Wiley, is that they then go on to the thing of mental health afterwards. They're like, oh no, they're having a meltdown. There's something, you know, it's like there's certain parts of the music industry you're not allowed to touch.
The other thing, shout out to Your More, shout out to my sister Your More in the building. I was wondering where she was. Big up to Streetwise Spirituality UK, aka the Master Detective.
Oh yeah.
What's good? So Mr. Green said his show got cancelled. Yeah, apparently, about like 4 shows or something like that. About 4 shows that were in arenas got cancelled, and then I guess they took the video down. Diddy and them took the video down, but then other people have re-upped. So if you wanted to see it, you can see it on YouTube. Actually, you know, and I kind of think they're probably bots that's meant to be done. Do you know what I mean? Like, they know people are going to grab it. It's been up for a
Perhaps
while.
It weren't that good.
Huh?
The show that got cancelled. Was it whose show got cancelled?
So the show where he actually went off on this mad rant, other than the tweet he did, I think the night or two before, was Drink Champs with Nori and DJ EFN, I think it is. DJ FN. I might have got his name wrong, man. I apologize for that. EFN. Yeah, I'm sure it's EFN. But yeah, so it's on that show, but which is on Diddy's Revolt TV, as well as on. Oh, he means Nick Cannon. Sorry, yeah.
Oh, so Nick Cannon lost the show as well.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, you're gonna win it, man. You can't talk about the music industry like that, and
TV industry. You know, Nick Cannon's obviously He had a TV show. He got
Nickelodeon, isn't it? He's
Yeah.
come from that stable, so he's fully.
Nickelodeon.
He
Yes,
probably
the
does
devil's,
know.
Yeah,
He does know a bunch of shit that we don't know, innit?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's very interesting, actually, when you think about it like that. But yeah, the thing is, obviously, now it's turned Yay fans on their head. I think people are a bit...
MTV, Mr. Green said it was Nick Cannon's show, MTV.
Yeah, he was on MTV. I think he had a few shows going as well. He was like, but what happened with him? He did it on his YouTube, innit? I think it's on his YouTube, maybe with Professor Griff.
Professor Griff was the original. Get cancelled. That was the original one. Get cancelled for talking about the music industry.
You know, nowadays, man, knowing the stuff that we know is like all that old school. You don't know who's who. You don't know who's on whose side or whatnot. So I think it is important for us to not get too caught up in, you know, how much we revere somebody or revere a person, revere a title, revere like some form of identity that has, you know, made us feel good in some form of way, because you still don't know who or what or that person is. And so with the thing with, you know, it might be one of your favorite rappers or producers or a genius or whatever, but as to what they say, that's them saying it. You know, you shouldn't really start arguing with other people over what someone else is saying, whether it's like, you know what I mean? I just think it creates a lot of unnecessary chat and kind of gets past the real problem. You know what I mean? It makes us look past the real problem. And so people need to start talking about that rather than who, what, where, when, and why. It's like, you know what I mean? How do we get out of it then? How do we sort it out? You know? And I think that's a big thing that we should look at as well, rather than just cuss out somebody for speaking their truth. You know, for him, that's his truth. He seems like we just saw some other video where he was unapologetic about it.
Yeah.
With Fast Morgan. He's talking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting just absolutely just badgered by him as well. Not even... when they drag out the sort of traditional gatekeepers to try and, you know, hammer away at these people, I don't like those people anyway. So when they start dragging them out,
then you know it's
sort of
exactly.
Like,
that's what it seems like.
They're stepping him up through the different stages, and then there's the lawsuit thing that's happening. You know, so that's like your next lawfare. That's your next.
Being Alex Jones
thing.
now, you know, and it's like, I don't know if anyone still trusts Alex Jones anymore either. So it's a really weird one, man.
Yeah.
Yamor says that's the way of the modern world. In quotes, by the way. Hold celebs in high esteem. Sorry, yet we don't really know who they are. And it's very true, man.
Yeah.
We don't know who they are. We don't know what they really represent behind closed doors. All we get to see is what they allow to be broadcasted. You know what I mean? And it's funny how much stuff gets broadcasted that we start bickering over, you know, between each other without even really knowing whether it's true or not. It's just a bit of information that we've seen on a screen or something we've read, and then bam, people go off. Do you know what I mean?
It's easy to be when you sort of get into all this, you know, alternative news stuff. It's easy to be cynical about it and think that everything is controlled. You know, all information is controlled as it comes out. But over the last 2 years, you know, Kanye's just like anyone else, probably had a lot of time in front of the computer and, you know, seen a lot of bits of information pass across his screen. And he might well have found out some information that he thinks is like fucking...
That's what I'm saying. He might have,
sorry, swearing children. That he thinks is really important for people to hear.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you find out something new, you do become an evangelist for it. You know, you do go around. It was the same with the
Rona.
Yeah, is that you go around telling people about it, and in the end, you're like, okay, the best thing is to just be a bit quieter about it. You know, it comes out when it comes out.
You don't want to sound like a madman.
Exactly.
You don't want to sound like a madman.
Like that.
But there are things like when he's 1 minute the humble brag, or not so humble brag, but you know, bragging about being a billionaire, the richest black man in America or whatever, and then complaining that they've took you off their platform. Bruv, it sounds like you can afford your own platform, man. And it seems like your Insta's still up. So
has he bought Parler or something? Is he?
Oh yeah, don't talk about that. Yeah, something like that, or Gabba,
so
or
he
one
has
of them.
bought his own platform.
You know, and it's like we hear that though. It just sounds like the same story we hear all the time. All of a sudden, you know what I mean? But just a different demographic now.
Yeah,
it's the same kind of story. Oh, and he's bought. Sounds like Elon Musk. Sounds like Trump. You know what I mean? Do you trust any of these people? But we're gonna get the same story. Like,
yeah, awesome coalition though.
Yeah, it would be. And what's his name? Andrew Tate. That's the new dude, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the new, like, nah. He's like the new Alex Jones or something.
Yeah. They've taken Jones out. But yeah, it's those three, if it was them three in some sort of power conglomeration, it'd be quite a good, in some ways, obviously.
Well, look what BLA's saying.
It'd be funny. It would be funny.
He's saying about, he's been places we've never been to. It's true, but I still don't trust him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's the bottom line, I guess. Is like, don't put all your eggs into his basket.
All right, I'll stop enjoying Kanye's album.
Nah, I'm not saying like that. I'm not saying like that. It's like,
I'm going to stop singing along in the car, all right?
With your auto-tune, you got little... Man, but it's a weird one, man. Crazy out there to see, all this kind of talk going on, and whilst our bills are still going up, I don't know if anyone's had a look at it, but this is what we were talking about. Yeah, this don't pay energy bills, October 1st. I don't know how it went, but I want to hear some feedback if anyone got involved.
Yeah, I'd like to hear some as well, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's needed. All right, so still waiting on Mr. Richardson, but what we'll do is let you know that if you need any CBD content, any CBD form of content, I'm talking chocolates, oils, sprays, chocolate stirrers, man, cannaseursuk.com. That's the place to be, man. Balms. And when I'm talking about balms, these are the type of balms that you can put on your skin if you've got rashes, if you've got eczema, if you've got joint pain. These sort of things can help. CBD infused coconut oil paste. You can get yourself full spectrum. You can get yourself sativa. Do you know what I mean? But if you wanted to go either way, it's up to you. Especially when it comes to the sprays, because you got indica dominant spray and you got sativa dominant, and you've also got full spectrum, as well as various chocolates. You know what I mean? For you lot with the sweet tooth out there, and the chocolate stirrers are definitely one you want to grab. Get a good night's sleep. Now, CBD oil has many proven benefits. I've got to let you lot know that. CBD oil, cannabis oil. Or cannabidiol. I'm not sure. I think it's cannabidiol. But the cannabinoids, there are over 200 chemical compounds known as cannabinoids that are found in cannabis. It's the second most prevalent active compound found in cannabis behind THC. So if you don't want to get too high, you know what I mean? Or you don't want to get high at all, don't worry. CBD is definitely for you. Because it doesn't have any like psychoactive properties or anything like that. But basically, it can help for many different things. Like I said, to do with pain. It helps people with epilepsy. It helps people with arthritis. Helps you with anxiety, with depression, sleep disorders, acne, Parkinson's disease, nausea and vomiting. There's so many different ways that this product can help you. And from what I've found, I've tried a bunch of CBDs, left, right, and center. But Cannasa's UK, they definitely come with high quality products. So it's blessed that we can let you lot know about this. So make sure you hit up cannaseursuk.com. And when you get to the checkout, you just type in SYMNNKNA. That's Simna, or something you might not never know nothing about. Just put in the acronym SYMNNKNA. Make sure that's in uppercase, and you'll get yourself a whopping 20% off any orders from canisarsuk.com, mother lovers. Make sure you hit them up, man. Yeah, man, and big up to Sam and the crew for making sure, you know what I mean, we can stay on the level, what do you call it? Homeostasis.
Yeah.
Yes. Shout out to Dawn and David, especially for letting me know how to pronounce that properly. Homeostasis. Yeah, it's important, man. Telling you. And especially nowadays with all this madness going on, people getting mad stressed out with, what's her name? Liz Truss. Messed up, apparently. You know, it's just weird, man. Like, people can accept that. You know, the head of state, the prime minister, the person in charge of all your lives managed to make a big ass mistake like that. With all the people behind her making sure she does things right. Really? You know, you really believe that? You know what I mean? Come on, man. We know where we're going next. We know where we're going.
Yeah.
We're going to hell, mother lovers.
That's right, yes. If none of you got that, we're going to hell.
Can they do it? Big up Gleam. Can you do it?
I don't know I don't want any of them in.
Nah, see? That's where we're at now, man. It's like, you know, if people can't realize now that something's not right with the office, it's not, you can blame every face you want, every person you see that comes and takes the office. Something was wrong with the office because they're always complaining about the last person in the office left it really messy and I've got I need more time than this to clean it up.
Yeah. I want to go back to just where you get a leader, they just duel each other. And then one of them wins the duel.
Right, go arm wrestle.
Yeah.
Thumb fight. Like, you lot must be able to thumb fight.
Yeah.
Something, man. You can't have that.
If you can win the thumb fight, you're in charge till someone else challenges you. You have to have like 30 days before the next challenge.
Right, imagine that though. Meathead thumb fighters like taking charge, boy. That's it. We'd be living that life. I like that one. Yay, Dolph. People coming up with some names, boy. Yay, Dolph. Yo. Roll call, mother lovers. Roll call. Let's find out what you lot are blazing out there, man. Because you know what I mean? It's been one of those weeks. I got some Space Monkey and some Biscotti, some Runts.
Yeah. No Skittles, not any.
No,
not got any dogs, any Star Dog.
Careful though. Sounds like he's going to say dog shite, and we're not there yet. Nah, no Star Dog. Star Dog is, Star Dog is one of them strains. It's just like a haze kind of thing.
Gleam, there should be a rule where you have to live on the lowest benefits and you do not get a pay rise until you rise the conditions of the whole country. Or at least you should have to prove that you've lived in all sorts of conditions, not just been rising through the ranks. It's that you've actually gone and seen what it's like at different levels.
Like you've lived in a dumpster.
Until you've walked a mile in everyone's shoes.
Like you slept, there's one time you've had to sleep outside.
Yeah, until you've slept a night in everyone's sleeping bag.
Why's it got to be that sleeping bag?
Well, because that's how homeless people sleep in a sleeping bag, and how can you really judge what homeless people need without having actually lived like it?
True. That's true.
And even then, you can't really judge what it's like to be homeless because you've got somewhere to go back to.
Yeah, because you just tried it out. You're like, okay, it's just what it's like.
But the same as sending people to war. Unless you've actually been in a war, how do you know what it's like to send people to war? To just be able to sign off on 30,000 people, we send them over there. They can go and die for this thing. Like, what have you done then to justify you being able to say that?
And can you do it? Like, who are you to tell me to do that shit?
Yeah.
Can you do it? You know, back in the day, that's how it was. The king was rolling with you like on the horse.
Yeah.
My man's in front.
Yeah.
He's in front, like drawing sword first.
Drawing thumb.
Yeah, he's drawing thumb.
Getting ready for the thumb war.
My man's drawing thumb first. Thumb first. He's like in front of the horse. Thumb is in front of the horse. Like now, bruv, my man's just sit clutching in the office, telling you lot what to do. Shiny forehead, looking worse than mine. Telling you lot what to do, boy.
Yeah, I saw a meme today about about Henry VIII. It's like Henry VIII on one side, how he was like a badass king, and then King Charles on the other side being told what to do by Greta Thunberg. Being ordered around by a child.
Greta Thunberg, boy. Jeez, that's hilarious. Yep, that's where we're at. It's like the DJ now. It's like how the DJ works now. You know what I mean? Before, it used to be about the DJ telling you what's good. Now it's the kids telling the DJ, play this, do this. That's what King Charles is, man.
Yeah.
He's
it's just a DJ.
Yeah, a shit DJ. Sorry. Really bad DJ.
Yeah.
Sorry, kids. Don't say that word.
And when he says DJ, it means disc jockey. That's what that stands for. Kids, because kids won't know what DJ is now. Yeah.
Oh, that's deep, boy. That's a dropper.
You're obviously into it by the way you're dressed.
Yeah. Shout out to the crew, boy. You lot are showing off again. Jeez. All right. BLA says Star Diggy standard here. Yeah, man. Now, you know, it's not you can't knock the Star Dog. I'm just saying it's become that kind of, you can get it all the time now. Do you know what I mean? Like a haze or a lemon, I mean, them days, boy. Shout out to Glee. Mammon says Alien OG. Okay. And Ami. All right. See it there. Ami in the building. Woo! Check Turbs, though. Turbo Turbolicious, Tangerosa, and Smash Melons. You fucking show off. Shout out to you more. Purple Lemony Darkness. Oh, Dankness. Ow! Purple Lemon, yeah. Sounds nice. Very interesting. What? So wait. Okay, yeah. Gleam was saying that Rishi, I thought he was talking about Rishi mushrooms there. But yeah, Rishi the billionaire does not even know about Standard Life. None of them do, man. It's true.
Is that Standard Life in the insurance company, or is that?
I think he's on about like sleeping on the street.
Just your Standard Life.
Yeah, you know, just your standard council estate life. Like none of them, you know, it's like everyone's always got this kind of rags to riches story, and then you find out years later that actually they've got a peerage name or whatever.
Yeah.
They're part of that the massive clan. Do you know what I mean? There's all these like last names out there that these people are chosen type thing, you know, and then they all kind of breed within. It's like 10 cousins removed type thing.
All right, there's no Kanye stuff here. You just ignore everything he's saying. He's got mental health issues.
That wasn't no Kanye stuff, man. I ain't following Kanye, man. I like BLA. I don't trust him. That's it. Like BLA said. Yeah, I mean, you're famous, man. Like you're a billionaire. I'm meant to trust you. How many billionaires do you know that you could trust? How many billionaires do you know? But you know, it's like, but they seem to be all the people that are making crazy money off of everyone on our sort of level. Yeah. So it's like, how much can you trust any of them? Do you know what I mean? At the same time, if you do, I can't knock you. Do you know what I mean? But you gotta look in the mirror and really think about who you should be worshipping. That's all I'm saying. Do you know what I mean?
If you're gonna like it for the lols. You know, don't like it because it's going to save everything or it's going to be the answer to everything. Just like it because it's funny, and you know that will get you through most of the situations. Don't get attached to the situation. See it as something that's actually probably quite funny, and try and just laugh at it. And if it comes true, then that's good. That was the result. But you know, don't put all your hopes into it.
Yeah.
It is funny watching these things unfold. It ultimately is funny.
Yeah, I guess.
You know what I mean? Watching all this stuff go on.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Watching people lose their shit over it.
It's
watching news where they're all deadly serious. Today, Kanye West. And, you know, and you're like, why are you taking this so seriously?
Yeah.
Kanye West.
Why are you even
Have you
giving
read
it
the
light.
rest of his timeline?
If it's so bad, why are you giving it
Yeah,
airplay?
Yeah.
Like, why are you giving it airtime?
Yeah.
There must be a reason, right?
yeah,
And then bam, like how could, all of a sudden he's turned up on Fast Morgan's thing. Like, okay, that's the ultimate. You were 1 minute you were blocked and they don't want you to. Now it's like, can you not say what I want you to say for about 2 minutes? Can you know what I mean?
yeah.
It's crazy,
he's
man.
doing the press tour for the piece of information that the press didn't want him to talk about. Now he does the press tour for
That's what I'm saying.
So he's like ringing round, can I come and see you this afternoon and talk about the thing I'm not allowed to talk about?
Bet you they're ringing him.
Yeah, it's true.
They're ringing him, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, no, can we? Oh, yeah. He's like, yeah, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, because I got what is it? My White Lives Matter T-shirt.
But that was also a way that they hang you as well, is by getting you to repeat it over and over again in public, and it's the media at the end of the day, isn't it? So it's all part of a big an industry,
Yeah.
media, music, film, whatever,
Yeah,
entertainment industry.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's the part where we get the lines get blurry, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, I forgot that this is just entertainment.
Yeah.
I'm here all getting mad.
Yeah, that's
Heated
what
over
I'm
it.
saying. That's what I'm saying. Don't just, as long as you don't get
Yeah,
angry about any of these things, because
yeah.
they're not really there. They are there to make you angry, but that's because they're trying to distract you from other things all the time, aren't they? So,
Entertainment.
yeah.
All right, we're coming up to the hour, so hopefully what happened was Clint saw it as a different timeline. But even that is one thing I've learned from this guy. Entertainment. To enter and to the word tain, it like taint, to hold in some form of way. And then ment, everyone knows now, mente, mentis, mind. Anytime you hear the, word ending with ment, it's like to do with the mind. So to enter and hold the mind, that's what entertainment is. To get into your mind and keep you there. Keep you focused on this while I do this over here. I'll just take this out your ear. Well, keep looking at me. You know what I mean? Just pickpocketing you without you realizing. And that's what's really happening, man. Regardless of like how you feel about whoever, it's like these things are just holding you there. And now that form of entertainment, like your more was saying, it seems satire is what is dictating like real life now. Like literally, they just seem to, shift the medium, shift the way that they can grab hold of people, because now we're all like, oh, what's gone viral? What's the viral thing today? Who's everyone? What's the hashtag today that everyone's talking about? And then bam, just start talking about that. Do you know what I mean? So it's that easy. You make, like you talk about, it's the meme. A lot of things are memes before we even realize. It's like, because a meme is just showing you a funny situation.
Yeah. We are also approaching the end of, like, we're in what you call like late stage capitalism. So there is like also the thing that this all collapsing around us. So you got to be prepared for things to get a bit weird whilst that happens, because nothing lasts forever, and there's only so far they can take all this stuff without driving people absolutely bonkers. And so I think there is like some sort of collapse going on, whether it's being engineered or whether it's just sort of accelerating through the fact that it's driven people mad. I think that there is going to be some stuff that comes out that's like curveballs, that are just going to be completely against what you're used to seeing, because things have been so tightly controlled before. But not for the whole of of this sort of period of time, but probably from, say, like probably like mid 60s onwards, you've had quite a lot of control put in place, and some of that is collapsing, and they are losing control. And the internet has helped spread information that they didn't want spread.
Yeah, you reckon? Yeah,
yeah, definitely. There's no question about it that more people have got access to illicit information that has been obscured since probably, yes, it's probably from like JFK onwards, something like that. It's been like this process of trying to sort of keep certain stuff covered up,
Yeah.
you know, to stop people going, basically just losing the plot with the whole system.
Yeah.
You know, because
So
it is
chaos.
it is quite a tense system to live under. It's as bad as any other system. Capitalism's just another form of communism or anything else, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
at some point it's going to collapse, or it's going to just fall under its own weight. And to keep the edifice upright, they have to build more and more crap onto the side of it, and eventually it's just so much stuff added on that it's going to fall under its own weight.
Well, some people say that's what this whole Great Reset is. It's basically because there's going to be a crash. You know, like you said, the buildings doesn't stay up forever, and then bam, all of a sudden you're like, oh right, okay, now we gotta try and rebuild this some way.
Yeah, and that's when
nothing.
That's when the veil is finished. You know, when that collapse happens, and then so that's the time for them to either step in and put more control in place, or it's also the time for us to step in and, you know, make something else out of the chaos.
Yeah, if we're brave enough to do it.
Yeah, and I think we've got a guest in the.
Okay, so it was that then.
Yeah.
All good, man. Ladies and gents.
Just wait for him to connect up.
Get your seatbelts ready, mother lovers. Get your shoulder pads, your helmet. You know what I mean? I'm talking American football style. Get your gum shield. Get your pen and pad. Whatever you need to record some of this information, because, boy, it's a pleasure. It's an honor to speak to this man here. Over, you know what I mean, the last, 2 and whatever years now. I guess we got to call it 3 years now, man. Let's stop bullshitting, innit?
Yeah, nearly.
You know,
3 years.
we've had enough time to really look at what the hell is going on in this world. Try and understand it. You know what I mean? Try and take in the information. And boy, there's way too much of it for you to, you know, try and take in one go. And for you to even try and research yourself, for you to even look at. So I feel like we're lucky, you know what I mean, to find those roses in the cracks of, you know what I mean, English weather, English cloud-coloured pavement, and find like, there's somebody out there who, you know what I mean, who's really got the guts to go all the way. Who's happy to, well, I don't know if he was happy to do it, but who's willing to quit their job and just, you know what I mean, do like the type of research that none of us are really ready for. I don't think, you know, so, oh man, it's going to be very interesting finding out how we got started. But once D has got the video ready, we can introduce him properly. Big up all the crew locked in. We're about to speak to a very interesting man who wrote a book that is this thick, and it's called Straw Man, the real story of your artificial person. It's the real story of your artificial person. And it's a very, very, very deep story. One that I was trying to say, yo, you're not going to be able to understand it in one day, you know what I mean, 1 week, 1 year. It's going to take a while and a lot of effort. And this is someone that, out of all, you know what I mean, the people out there with the whole truth community thing, this is someone that I've found to be very on point with a lot of stuff to do with this topic right here, the straw man, your artificial person. He goes by the name of Clint Richardson. Let's get some fire emojis in the comment section. Big up to Vinny B for making it happen, man. Because, yeah, seriously, like I was saying, we had a lot of time through those years to find out who's really telling the truth, who knows the truth, who, you know, who understands it, who can explain it even. And for me, there's very few people that really managed to make a lot of sense of it and explain it in a way. I first found out about him through, I think it was the Innerverse podcast. Because you know, at that time, once you're looking at stuff on YouTube, things will pop up. Hey, people that have been watching this have also been watching this. I'll be like, all right, let me click that. Let me see what he's saying. What do they think? And then bam, the amount of information that he was dropping, I was like, right. And I'm one of them. I'll look in the comments, right? This one said this is his website, or you know, so and so said it. Check this video with him and blah blah blah. So I just kept doing that. And then there was one with a lady called Tammy Pepperman. Clint Richardson, welcome to the show, man. This some shit you might not never know nothing about. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us about it.
I appreciate the intro, man. It's very generous.
Yeah, man.
The question is, which shit do you want to talk about? Because we only have limited time. You know?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'd like to get into the artificial person stuff. I know it's a long time since you've done it, but my intro to you was through that podcast, as I said. But then I checked out you have a thing called Red Pill Sunday School. So I've been looking at your stuff backwards.
That's my show, technically, yeah.
When you say technically, what do you mean?
I started off the first season. I was actually doing it on a 2 hours on a network that a friend was running, and I don't know. I did about 20-something shows, and well, very happy I did so, because when you do a show like that, you really, you got 2 hours to talk to people, and you do as much research as you can and try to fill in the timeline as much as possible. So I really invaluable stuff in those things that I should have been writing down instead of actually reading to the screen. I should have been making a whole project of it. But really interesting history that we're not accustomed to. That's actually provable, as opposed to the sort of, I don't know, patriot religion that we have floating around, that where a lot of stuff just isn't, it's not factual.
Yeah.
I'll put it to you this way. One of the things I've discovered is that in order to have a country or a religion, or for that matter, anything that's sort of organized around something, you have to have sort of a belief system. You have to have a history. And there comes a point where you realize all history is bunk. History is the events that we think are huge, Washington crossing the Delaware, that sort of thing. It's such a small, tiny little event that meant absolutely nothing, but it's blown up, and it's made to the proportion where these guys are, they're fathers. Call no man father, but they're your fathers. And it's a necessity. It's one of what I call the pillars of the fiction that prop the whole thing up, basically, is this notion of a timeline, a history, that kind of thing.
What was your first? So you're telling me, man. When was your first sort of discovery of all of this? Because, like I was saying to people, to write something like this, obviously took a lot. But what was the seed that, what planted the seed and made you go, hold on a minute?
I was in Manhattan for 9/11, so I actually watched it from my roof, and had a hell of an experience with all that. The Missing Person Center was right across from my front door, and the hospital was down the street. Right, all the streets were closed off, no food in the city, etc. And so it was a hell of an experience. But what I noticed really was that before a certain point, I believe it was on the second day, all the news outlets, you were turning to anybody you could, even like Howard Stern, because you wanted to see, what was going on. And all the news outlets had these different opinions and stories. They were actually reporting things, especially in New York, right? And then all of a sudden, man, everything switched. Everything was, all of a sudden, the official story was in place, and the media packet was distributed, and everybody had the same story. And all those things that they were saying made so much sense, and then all of a sudden, all that was gone. And there was this, fairly unbelievable story that was going on. And that was such a traumatic experience, being there, being able to smell it, being able to see it visually, that and then being in the aftermath of that, I guess you could say it sobered me up. I think the night before I was out dancing and stuff, drunk and at one of the clubs. So
literally, yeah.
The as I progressed, I went to groups like We Are Change, and there were people in there talking about this redemption / straw man thing, and previous people had written books on it, mostly as a tax protest type of thing. The tax protest circuit, if you will, was pretty big back then, 2003, 2004. But something struck me about the notion that I'm not acting as myself. I'm acting in simulation or hypocrisy. That's actually what simulation means. And that somehow I'm being controlled by this sort of puppet, if you will, that why? Because what happens we're always asking the question, why does the law apply to me? How does the president have power over me? Because the president's going to say, you ask the president where his power comes from, he's going to say the people. Wait a minute, am I the people? I mean, who is the people? And when you start asking questions like that, you actually find out, there is a difference between private people and public people who act in persona or in an artificial construct. This straw man, I call it a straw man because straw man actually means like a dummy corporation or an agent or something you put up instead of yourself, which is what we do when we go to court. When you go to court, they call for the full name and or its agent, which is the attorney. And you're summoned to summoned to the court, and you must appear as. And when you hear those terms and you start seeing them over and over, what do you mean I'm appearing as? What else would I be if I didn't appear as this thing that you're calling, this person that you're calling? And then you go and you start looking up the word person, and you find one of the biggest arguments is that the word person, it's like a whole book when you're trying to read the definition of what a person is.
Yeah.
Because a person can be a corporation, an association, this or that, or what they call an individual. Well, what happens when two individual persons get married? They incorporate and become one person. Wait a minute. I'm the same person as my wife or my husband? What?
Wow.
All these things just didn't make sense to me. We're talking about something that is not me. And I'll tell you what really kicked me in the butt, man. I was very successful working on Hollywood Boulevard as a sound engineer, sound designer, actually. And I went to sound engineering school after I moved from New York. As many musicians do, musicians are a dime a dozen, and making a success out of it's pretty hard. So a lot of musicians go into the sound departments and stuff. That's pretty incestuous in Hollywood. Hard to get a job, and I did my 6-month internship for free, and I worked my butt off, and I got hired. That's what it wasn't my skill. It was my dedication, basically. And that's a real. They never looked at my degree. They never looked at anything. They looked at how much I would slave for them for free.
Yeah.
Right. So what happens? I'm going. They're starting to give me more projects. Everything's great. And this was the thing that I instantly knew. This was the first positive or tactile thing, something that I could actually feel and see with my own eyes. Right? Because we're talking about something that's invisible, right? We're talking about a status. That's what person means, your status in society. So what does it mean? Well, I went through identity theft.
That's kind of weird.
I sat there and I said, what does that mean? Because all these different examples, how can my identity get stolen unless it's not mine? How can someone steal your identity, use it as if they're you, unless that identity is a separate entity, a person, a stat, something that is, I won't say tangible, but almost like a piece on the Monopoly board, or a character in a video game that you can steer, but you're not actually the character. You're just using it in commerce, right? That was it. That was, unless you've been through major, and I was a good little citizen, good creditor, had my good little credit score and everything like that, right? And then bam, all this stuff, all this crap started coming in the mail. Credit cards, people were buying boats and homes in my name. Credit completely ruined, credit score, vroom. I try to fix it. I try to do everything. My bank account gets drained. When I go to use my card because they replace my money, it's gone before I can use it. So I know now that someone's in the bank is doing it.
Jesus.
And I'm like, my God, I couldn't. I'm stuck in LA with this stolen identity. I had no access to anything. I had to borrow. From people. Called up my mom. I was like, Mom, I don't know what to do. So that was the moment, I think, because I would say I'd had a slight mental breakdown. I had all these new projects. I had just so much going on. I had health issues at the time. I was so stressed out that something just broke down in me. And I don't say that in a bad way. I think everybody needs to have a mental breakdown. I think everybody needs to have that moment where you wake up to the simulation. You wake up to this crazy, crazy thing you're doing. This life, so-called, these jobs, these things. What am I doing? Who am I working for? What's the purpose of my existence, to work 10, 12 hours a day and weekends? Or is there something more? And at that moment, I suddenly didn't give a shit, honestly, about whether my credit score was ever going to be 0. Because as I looked and I tried to understand what was happening, there's no fixing it. The police wouldn't do anything because they want the main guy. They don't want the guy that did it. They want the group, the organized criminal group that's doing it, which is who knows who. So couldn't get any help there. The credit repair agencies, the guys that actually, Experian and that kind of thing, they don't help. They're not interested. That's not what they're there for. They're purely there to track. When you say it's fraud, they don't care. They're not going to do anything to help you. So I'm sitting there I'm helpless because someone stole myself.
It's crazy.
What do you do? I mean, what the hell do you do when you cannot claim your own identity to get your own money, or your what you think is your money, or what you think is your what do you do, right? Well, to me, that was the moment where everything sort of, like I said, it was it was a mental breakdown, because everything at that point, the only thing that made sense is that there is this thing, whatever it is, this straw man that exists outside of my power, and that it doesn't belong to me, that I'm actually beholden to it, that it is used to control me. Sure enough, years and years later, after learning the entire legal language, after studying its history, and then studying words and studying all the legal systems and how we got here, all the way back to Hammurabi and its code, you understand that this whole concept of personhood or incorporation, it goes back pre-Roman times. It's nothing new. Now, what was amazing to me was there was at this time that I started noticing that the law was always referring to something spiritual, natural, or biblical. And it was always opposite to it.
Mm.
And so that led me to look at the Bible. And I said, okay, I think I'm typical American. I think I know everything there is to know about the Bible because I have an opinion about it. Right? So I said, I'm going to just forget everything I think I know. I'm going to forget I was Methodist when I grew up. I'm going to forget all that. I've attended other churches. Forget all that. Forget what I think I know. And I'm going to pick up that Bible and I'm going to learn what it says.
Hmm.
And as I'm going along, there's this amazing, amazing thing happening over and over and over. It says, do not respect persons. Do not judge in person. Do not do this. Do not respect persons while worshiping, God, essentially. Do not ever, in any circumstance, respect personhood, which again is all corporations. Well, guess what? Government is corporation. It's all people who are so-called citizens or whatever, have a status, because really what it's saying is don't respect status.
Mm.
Right? And so then suddenly, everything starts becoming clear. So I shouldn't respect persons or flattering titles. When I speak to you, I shouldn't treat you as a commercial entity that I might do business with. I should treat you with love, respect, dignity, pride, charity, and forgiveness. As is the natural law, the law of nature, law of God, if you will. And as I'm going through the Bible, I'm finding, hell, this has nothing to do with religion. Religion is completely foreign to the Bible. It's kind of like Masonry. Freemasonry uses the Bible, the Quran, and the Talmud as its so-called sacred books, right? But so does the church. But the church and Masonry have hardly anything to do with the actual Bible. So when you're going through the Bible and you start realizing that, and here's the most important thing. While the Bible, because the Bible turns out is a book of law. It's not religion. It should not be looked at as anything different than Black's Law or any other law book, except it's the foundation of all law, because it's the law of nature, or, if you will, the law of truth, the law of reality, that which is not a lie, that which is... So everything in the Bible is thou shalt not do this. You should not respect flattering titles, like king and president. You should take no false gods, no false oaths. You should not do this. You should not do this. Right? Well, that's so completely opposite to the legal system, which says you shall do this. You must do that. You must pay taxes. You must do this. You must, therefore, participate in the monetary system to pay us our tax. You must. So you got one book saying don't do everything that this system says to do. And we're all caught over here. We're caught in this giant web of do. You have a duty or a obligation, a tax, right, to fulfill an obligatory contract, essentially. Citizenship, personhood, is a contract. So what I figured out is that you got one law book, which will keep you out of the system, keep you free. Frederick Douglass, who was a famous freed slave, basically, he said a Bible reading people cannot be enslaved.
He said
he
that's
meant
a quote of his.
people, right? Because see, we're all born equal. It says so in the Declaration, right? Well, what does that mean? It means we're born without person. We're born without status. We're born into nature. We're equal, right? There's no status, class. There's nothing, right? There's only race, which means family. And if you treat race as anything but the word family, well, if you can trick people into thinking race is something other than family, well, then you've got all this racial tension, right? Racism is a new concept. It never existed before, like the 1800s. You can't find the origin of the word because there was only race, which was family. People understood that, right? This is why you have the royal bloodlines and the people who start corporations and people who have always passed on their property to their children, their family. The law recognizes blood as the highest inheritable trait. That's race. To take it anywhere else, if you take it anywhere else, now you're getting into status.
Wow.
Which, of course, you're not supposed to do that, right? Because that's a person, a status. If I say you're black and I'm white, that's a status. But
someone's
what's
lying,
amazing about that? In the book in Black's Law, what's that?
I was just gonna say, what color is my phone right now?
Translucent black.
Yeah, sorry, but yeah, okay. My T-shirt is black, but I don't seem to blend in that well with it, so I
you
can't
look more
be.
brown.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Beautiful
But we walk
brown.
around telling each other.
But I'm all pale, pasty white.
Crazy.
It's not a great.
No,
look.
but you're not even white.
But,
that's what's crazy. We don't call each other what we really are.
And see, but
so
see,
right.
that all has nothing to do with family, because even if you go to Black's Law, and this is what completely woke me up from all of that, the racial the concept of using race against, turning us against each other so we never see who our true enemy is, right? In law, okay, if I were to tell you that in law, like you have to be able to anthropomorphize or use allegory, or like the burning bush spoke to me, right? You have to think of law as an entity, law as a false god, or a thing that has a anthropomorphized thing that has an opinion, right? You have to be able to do that really to understand all the ancient writing and stuff. You have to be able to understand the allegory and the metaphor and all that. So when I say that the law considers something, that's what I mean. I'm not saying the law is a real entity, right? And that's the problem with reading things like the Bible, is you think, but when I say in the purview of the law, like when you go to Black's Law Dictionary or others, it will tell you right in there that white in law is defined as pure blood. Okay? You, or someone in China, or someone in Indonesia, or someone in Thailand can all be white if you're pure blood to the royal family. Okay? Now, of course, we're not supposed to respect such things. We're all born equal, right?
Crazy.
So we're talking about status, because obviously someone who's a king or queen doesn't have the same status as a peon like me, right?
Born equal.
So I'm actually not considered white in that respect, unless I bear my arms, bear my family heritage, bear my arms. That's what the Second Amendment really is. We reserve the right to bear our family titles. It has nothing to do with guns. So when I tell you that Obama is white, I mean, he has a white mother whose ancestry is of a Connecticut land-holding private family. Can't remember the name right now. I have it in my blog. and that he is of pure blood. And in that dictionary, it says, has nothing to do with the color of your skin. White means family, pure blood to a certain family. So we're all white in that. If I look at my family, my mother and my father, I'm white to them, right? You'd be black because you don't have my blood, and I'd be black to your family because I don't have your blood.
Wow.
That's all it. That's
Jesus.
all it means, right?
Yeah.
But you take that and you hide that, even though it's part of the law, and the law recognizes blood as the inheritable right. That is how you know. I don't need a will if I'm in the common law and it's recognizing blood as the inheritance. I don't need to tell the law, this thing, this entity, that I'm going to give all my property to my children. That is self-evident. That's the difference between the true, foundational system of law, which the Bible is the most important foundation of it all. It's where all the maxims of law come from the Bible. When you hear someone say, the truth will set you free, that comes from the Bible. Because God is truth. You should be worshiping all that is truth, all that is existence. That's what Jehovah, YHVH, means. You have a problem with Jehovah, or you have a problem with the pronunciation, you're missing the whole point, because it's not even a name, it's a verb. It means existence, right? That's what God was used by the Catholic Church to replace the term Jehovah, YHVH, the ancient term from the Greek. It was in the Bible over 6,000 times. Completely taken out. It's like left in there like 3 or 4 times now, right? Whereas they use the word God and Lord in the Bible. But if you look up God, again, not what you think. God is a generic term. It can mean anything from king. Well, it can mean Jehovah, but it can mean any God, or it can mean king, magistrate, or anybody with a flattering title, a title of authority that we would worship as a false god. So your president, your king, your queen, your prime minister, your mayor, or I like to say the nasty lady at the driver's license bureau that treats you so poorly because she has a little bit of power over you, right? Anybody that you give authority to is a false god. Word God is just this generic term. Nobody should be even using it.
Wow.
When you're reading the Bible, though, there's times where God speaks to God, and then God does something else. There's 3 different instances of the word God. One is Jehovah, one is a man, and one is, something else. It can mean archon. It can mean all these different things. Elohim, which is the plural. You start understanding this. You start understanding that they took this beautiful book and they made it as hard to read as you possibly can. So I looked up every word as I'm going along. If there was a word that I either thought I understood but wasn't sure, or just was like, wow, I wonder what that actually means, I looked it up. And I tell you, you cannot read the Bible in English unless you look up every word, because nothing is what you think. And they did that for the purpose and started these false religions, so you'll never know the law. You'll never know how to be a free man, because you'll never know how to follow what they call the law of God, or the law of nature, which is do not contract with the artificer, the what they call the devil. The devil means attorney. In Scotland, they call attorneys devils. Deviling is part of the law. Like everything started fitting together, and you find after a while that the Bible and the legal system is so intertwined, because there'd be no reason for the Bible without the legal law. There is no purpose for either without the other. They are 100% opposed to each other. You cannot practice the law of nature, the law of truth, the law of God, the law of existence, right? While also being forced to participate in a fictional construct that forces you to do things that are all opposed to the law of nature. It's impossible to be or follow more than one law. You can't have two gods. You can't have, right? It's all of that starts to make sense if you stop taking it religiously. Take that religious gobbledygook and all that crap and put it aside and be completely neutral, right? A lost art. Completely neutral when you're reading this. You realize, oh my God, that is why all these legal terms are in the Bible. So, starting with identity theft, where suddenly I realize there's this entity, this thing that I can't really define or see or taste or smell, but its name is the name I use. To going into the Bible and discovering, yeah, indeed, the Bible says do not use or respect status or person. That is the essential breakdown of my personal transition. But if without that identity theft, I'm not sure I would have ever understood it.
It's crazy.
It's almost a blessing.
Yeah. I was going to say, in a weird way, it's kind of like, for that to happen to you is then all of a sudden it clicks like, whoa. Because I remember hearing you saying that, like, how can your identity be stolen by somebody if it's you? That means that it's not you. And it's true. You look at, I guess, even your driver's license and it will say this is not proof of identity. There are things that
That's
you
not
think
your property. It's property of the DMV.
Yeah.
Your Social Security card is property of the Social Security Administration. Law is copyrighted property of the bar. I mean,
law is copyrighted.
What is real? Nothing. Everything has to be property, you see. So, yeah.
So that means it's written.
Your status.
So you'd say the law is written by the bar in that sense, or who has written the law to say that, to say the maxims, where did they come from? The maxims of law that everyone follows.
Well, the maxims, so you got to understand again that the maxims of law, when you read them, are either going to deal with you, keeping in mind that a judge, especially, it's kind of hard to compare today's system with the old system, but in the old system, you had traveling judges, and you had a more of a legitimacy to the law, whereas today they don't even follow their own rules. But if you consider a judge, an actual judge, we don't have real judges today. We don't have article whatever constitutional courts. We don't have any of that because we're not in that system. We just don't know it. But a judge would take all of the maxims of law into consideration, right? Which means he'd go to the natural, self-evident, inherent rights of a man of God, and he would consider those, unless the man got into a contract. So there's this one maxim of law that's just ultra important. And it's sort of the bridge. I don't even think it should be there, but okay. It's sort of the bridge, right? And it says the contract makes the law.
Wow, the contract makes the law. Okay.
Right. So what happens is I've got all these inherent, beautiful, God-given, as they say, even in the Declaration. None of these terms were ever used again, by the way. So declarations in law is just a statement of the sentiment of the times. It has nothing to do with anything. So you have this maxim, right? This that kind of bridges you into the contractual or legal world, where if the contract makes the law, and you're agreeing that the contract will be settled in your system of law or another. Let me give you an example. You're all excited because you just bought a computer, right? Like, oh, thank God, I'm going to have a nice, fast computer. It's going to be great. I'm going to get all these programs and apps and everything. And you set it up, and what's the first thing it says? Before you can even use it, what does it say?
You gotta register.
what do you register? What does that mean? Well, yeah. See, if you were to read that end user agreement, you'd shit your pants, man. You'd be like, what did I agree to? What is this? This is nuts. You've actually agreed to being in international law where you can't settle things in the system of law that you're in. You've contracted out of the United States and into what they call an arbiter. So that is, say, Apple or Microsoft, get to pick who the arbiter is. And an arbiter could be anybody. It could be, I could pick a homeless guy off the street and say you're going to be an arbiter, and you're agreeing to that, right? Well, of course, they choose someone that's going to be on their side, and you've given up all your rights. You've given up all access to the courts and to the system of law. You've essentially hit a button, which is an action, which is a form of express consent to a contractual situation where you've completely abandoned the system of law. Okay? Well, guess what? That's what personhood is. You've contractually agreed to abandon the law of nature, abandon your God-given inherent rights in order to have a status in society, to be a person, and you agree to all the things that person is bound by. Well, consider this. Is someone in Pakistan bound by American law or U.S. law?
No, it can't be.
Well, no, of course not. They're not a person, or they're not acting as, I should say, a person of the United States. Now, if they move here, come here as an exchange student, they agree to be a person of the United States, and the United States gives them a card, and they can go into the States, right? Because the United States protects the States from all threats, foreign and domestic, right? So he becomes a U.S. whatever, green card holder, and he goes to school or whatever. So, but see, the law doesn't affect anybody. It only affects persons. So if I can get you, or rather, if I can get your parents to sign you over to the state as property, in other words, deliver you, that's why they call it the delivery room. If I can get them to deliver you over, sign a application, which is what the birth certificate process is, and then give you a receipt, which is the birth certificate, well, you've just handed over your child. What you've done is you've created a person. Okay? You've filled out all the vital statistics and everything that's required to make a unique individual. And those things, those signs, numbers, symbols that make you unique. You were born at this time and on this date, in this city, and this federal address, and this federal this, and this federal time zone, and this federal that, right? In order to the purpose of the birth certificate, according to, and this is not just me speaking out my ass, according to the Texas website is one I believe I found this on, the purpose of the birth certificate is to establish two things. You're getting domicile in the United States, Washington, D.C. Okay, so you're being born, B-O-R-N-E, carried into like a piece of cargo, basically, into the United States, not into Texas, not into California, not into New York. No, that's not how it works. You're born, the person is being created, the status is being created in the United States, and domicile means that's where your law comes from.
Wow.
If I have domicile somewhere, that's where my allegiance lies, okay, above all else, and that's where my law comes from. But remember, you always must remember, that's an identity. That is a person. That is a status created at birth. And from that point on, you are entrained, you are educated, you are... everything is put into training you to become and believe that that person and you are the same thing. That you are the person. Everything that you do is in person. Every time you sign your name, of course, you're signing as the agent of that person. You're signing like when you get hired, they're hiring your person. They can't hire you, right? If they hired you, they'd have to pay you under the table or privately. So when they hire the person, they're hiring a set of laws, and everything is in other words, the reason they do that is because with that, you're bound to the entirety of U.S. code. You're bound to the entirety of law because you're acting and you're employed through that person. That's why every job you go to, yes, fill out this application, give me your social security number, why do you need that for me to work? Well, because now I can have insurance. Now I can do all this stuff. We can further entrap you by giving you the promise of Social Security, a pension fund, basically, which ensures that you're going to stick around until you die. And of course, we're not going to pay you until you're about to die. So, yeah, that's basically how the whole thing works. Now, you get, like, say, a student that comes over here from another country, you get residence, or you can have residence in any state, right? So states love for you to move there. You're moving there as a United States citizen, a foreigner, in other words, right? Wherever you live in America, I'm in Utah, but I'm a foreigner in Utah. I'm a United States citizen. The only actual people that are in Utah are private people. They're not part of that system, which is a whole other subject. But you gotta understand that this is the foundation. This is the whole scheme being laid out, right? This is the theft of your natural, if you will, identity. It gets transposed into this fictional legal character, and you essentially become, for all intents and purposes, you're essentially becoming a monopoly piece on a monopoly board, right? Think about that for a minute, right? You cannot play any game unless you assume the role of, right? You're the player, right? I'm player number 1 in a video game, and it shows my little avatar. I'm this, I'm that. But I can't play any game, especially a board game, unless I assume the role of that game piece. I can't play chess or checkers. I can't play Monopoly unless I say I'm the car, right? Well, in the legal realm, we're doing the same thing. We're saying I'm the engineer. I'm the sound designer. I'm the sound engineer. I'm the this. I'm the that. Well, those are flattering titles that don't exist in nature, right? And that's the important part. Don't respect flattering titles. I'm a nurse. I'm a doctor. You can trust me. Never mind that we're the number 1 killer and cause of bankruptcy in the world, but you can trust me. Right? I'm a doctor. Why do I trust someone because they wear a white coat and call themselves a doctor? That's the most foolish thing you can do, right?
It's because they're qualified. You know that.
Well, yeah, but who qualifies them, and what does that mean? Once you're qualified, who's looking at who's requalifying you? What does it mean to be qualified? And that's the point. If you're gonna heal, right? If I call myself a healer, it's because I'm actually healing. If I call myself a doctor, it's because I'm incorporated and I'm allowed to use that proprietary title under the law. And I have dominion to that law, and it says what I can and can't do, and it gives me protection and license to kill. If I kill somebody, no worries. I have insurance, right? I have liability insurance. What do they call it for doctors, right? Like, the last thing I want to do, and this probably sounds strange to people, but the last thing I want to do is go to someone who has my life in their hands, who also has millions of dollars of insurance that says if they kill me, no big deal. Just pay in money, right? That is actually really, really bad. Malpractice insurance. Evil practice insurance. That's what mal means. Evil practice insurance.
Wow.
Don't worry, I'm insured for evil. I'm insured for malevolence. If I kill or harm you, don't worry, the insurance will pay out. That's where the notion of money is the root of all evil comes from, because my God, I'd rather have someone with no insurance who's going to be extra careful and agrees to be sued if he harms me, right, for his own personal property.
Yeah.
But these doctors and nurses, they don't care. They've got millions of dollars in malpractice insurance. They could give a shit whether they harm you. And that is why doctors are the number one. And I'm not just saying this, again, did a whole documentary series about it. And one of the highest university studies, when they actually looked, they found there's no actual number to record, or no actual name for doctor-caused harm. It's called iatrogenic.
Yeah, iatrogenic. Yeah.
Death. Yeah, there's nothing. They don't mark it down. He died of a heart attack. How did he have a heart attack? Oh, I caused it. But they don't say that. There's no coding for doctor-caused death or harm. And so it goes unreported. Well, they did a study of all the hospitals, and they looked at the records. They found out, he died because they left a stethoscope in his chest plate. He died, because of this drug or because of this doctor's malfeasance. But they don't report. Would you report it? I mean, if you had a chance to say, well, he died of a heart attack or a stroke, and you could just say, well, oops, I killed the guy. He died of a heart attack. Right? I mean, this is why the legal system is and can be nothing but evil. Evil being a word, again, don't think of it religiously. Think of it as artificial against, everything that's good, basically. Everything that is that makes a man honest, charitable, loving, and all that stuff. So it's
crazy, man.
In a nutshell, we're all in a monopoly board. We're not touching the land. We can't own We can't own anything. We have nothing. Everything, including our children, is given to the state.
And what's that? Because you said we don't own. Because I guess with a car, what is it? You're the registered keeper over here in the UK, as well as a homeowner. You're the owner of the title.
Tenant.
Yeah, you're owner of the title. So literally.
Yeah. And well, what does it say? It says, "Do not respect titles, flattering titles." That goes across the board. Why is that in the Bible? Why does it say don't be surety? Why does it say don't do this and don't respect persons over and over and over? And when you go to the concordances and the lexicons and you say, well, what does that mean? What did it mean back in the Greek and the Roman times? Man, it's the same thing. See, here's the trick, man. The trick of it is that what's happening is you're being incorporated. And what incorporation means, you're familiar with the words corporeal and incorporeal?
Incorporeal.
Right, sort of, if you're corporeal, you're physical, and if you're incorporeal, you're like a spirit
entity.
Ghost, right?
Yeah.
So to incorporate a man is to remove his spirit. So in means take away, incorporate. You're taking away his spirit. Incorporeal, no power, no ability to do anything. So what happens when you're incorporated? Say when you become an employee. It's all a citizen is, really. It's the same thing, an agent, employee. You have a principal. You do the will of the principal as its employee or agent.
Wow.
And you have certain powers to do so, right? So your spirit, or if you will, the ability and drive and power to make a moral choice taken away. Because if you think about it, the hierarchy of your being, your trinity, if you will, is the body, the mind, the spirit. Well, the spirit is the highest. It's with a spiritual law. The spirit controls the mind.
Wow.
The moral compass controls the mind, and the mind, therefore, controls the body, not the spirit. You have to have that distinction. So if I can take away your spirit, if I can incorporate your body, if I can incorporate you into the whole, meaning take away your body and incorporate it in the whole, then you're now left without a spirit. You're left without choice. You're in a giant causal loop, causality. You can choose between left and right. The false notion that left is good and right is bad, or right is good and left is bad, even though they all lead to the same slaughterhouse. You're gonna choose one path, and you think you've made a choice. Well, that's a spiritless choice, because if your spirit was in charge, you'd realize, I'm choosing a corporation. I'm choosing a political party. I'm choosing a president. I'm choosing someone to rule over me that is going to be my false god. Well, see, think about the first commandment, man. What is the first commandment? Take no other gods. Now, we read that, we say, well, that's obviously directed towards, the Zeus, or right, some supernatural thing that people know, the Greek gods and the Roman gods. Take no other gods before nature, reality, truth, right? Well, actually, no. If you go and you read it, it means gods. It means presidents, magistrates, judges. Don't let any man have power over you. Don't respect the title. Don't respect the person. So that's once you no longer have any attachment to the person, you realize it's just a vessel, like a car that you use in commerce. It's very difficult you can't ever unlearn this, right? But once you really actualize it, once you really know it, every time I use anything, I dread it. I feel like a hypocrite. I feel like I'm in a game, or I'm in a simulation that I know I'm participating, and I know I shouldn't, because I have a whole book of law that tells me that I obviously not to, under any circumstances, because the way the maxims of law work is that the second let's say I use money, right? Or I get credit. The second I use money, that money belongs to the United States. That money is property of the United States. It's not your property any more than your car is your property, any more than your house, or for that matter, in legal view, your children. They're not your property. Okay, the court considers itself the head of the family. Family means corporation, right? So the second you use anything, that is a contract. Guess what? You've just left the natural realm. The contract makes the law. You've used money. You're getting consumer protections, the ability to get a refund and all that stuff. You've just entered over into the legal maxims of law. You've gone from the natural, which protects men who obey the law of nature and truth and God, and who never lie and never respect artificial things, and you've entered over into the legal realm, the land of lies, the land of men, the land of man's law, the secular world. And now you're in a system where everything is a lie. Every word is inverted to mean something usually opposite to the natural meaning. And you are stuck in a system of law that is 100% opposed to the law of nature, law of truth. And therefore, you must act accordingly. You must act in person. Right? That's the problem. That is the whole issue, is that once you get into a contract, you have switched between the spiritual realm and the secular realm. Now, what is we all talk about the New World Order, right?
Dun, dun,
Ooh,
dun.
right? It's like etheric. What is the New World Order? And politicians mention it, they throw it in your face. But what is the New World Order? It's real simple, guys. It's the new novos, right? In the Latin, it's seclorum.
Seclorum.
Novos ordos, I think, ordom, seclorum or seclorus. That means secular. That means godless. It's not a new world order of, no, it's the order of men, the order of false science, the order of all the institutions that have been set up to go against. It's the new legal realm, the new legal order. In other words, the best way to say it is godless. No more natural rights. No more appealing to what is inherent or of the blood. No, now you're purely in a commercial, 100% commercial realm, and you have no longer access. This bridge, right, between the natural law and the legal law has just collapsed. That's the New World Order. You will no longer have inherent God-given rights because God will not be acknowledged. Right now, whether you know it or not, whether you believe it or not, I really don't give a shit. Everything in this system is based on the Bible, on God, on the notion of Jehovah, truth, that there is a real world, that there is something that is a higher power. And if you don't believe that, look up the term or go look at your insurance policy where it says this policy will not pay for an act of God.
Yeah, it does not cover acts of nature or acts of God.
Well, that tells you right there what's the definition of God that they're saying, Job? They're saying nature. They're saying that there is a higher power than themselves, and it is nature. It is Jehovah. The very definition, self-existence, that which is not man-made. If you're going into a new secular order, that means everything is man-made. There is no more appeal to nature. There is no more appeal to an act of God. There is no more appeal to religious rights or freedoms. It's gone. That is what the New World Order is. In the Bible, the world is a term. It's an old ancient term. I don't remember the Latin or the Greek or the Hebrew or whatever it is, but it means the world of men.
The world.
Right? Earth is God. World is a reference to the world of men. So don't be, what does it say? Don't be friendly with the world, or I can't remember. I'm not one to remember verses, more about the whole, but don't be friendly with the world. Be in it, but not of it. That kind of thing. Yeah.
Be in it, but not of it.
That's where we're headed. If we're not already, to me, it feels like we're already there.
Yeah.
That everything is just for show, basically.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy, man. There's a lot in there. I think people, you definitely got to rewind, take some notes, because. But yeah, so obviously finding out about this now, about the straw man, and then realizing you've made the connection to the Bible. But what I'm really interested in as well is because obviously in the music world, rap music, we use words. You made me realize that none of us are saying anything. We don't even realize what we're saying. And by the way, also
even the most well-spoken among us are not saying anything unless we like to have a conversation and not know the language you're speaking or not agree on terms. You can't do it.
Can you explain that for us laymen in terms of, because it is quite a lot as well, but just in the sort of simplest way you could, how we're not speaking any language. Apparently we're speaking a dead language. I've got friends that have gone to private schools. They've learnt Latin, but never got taught how to speak it. They just got taught how to read it and how to translate certain things. Well, and then been told that it's a dead language. So what's all that about?
Yeah. Well, they call it a dead language, right? Because they don't want you to learn it, because it's actually the highest. You got 3 levels of 3 levels of we'll say understanding, or 3 levels of I don't know what the right
comprehension.
Word is. Yeah, well, order. How about that? Okay. Dog Latin in Black's Law Dictionary. Dog Latin is what they call English. English is like a whore language. It's got French words, and it's got Latin, and it's got all these different things, and it's just this conglomeration of even Mark Twain and people like that called it a mongrel language. Basically, it's a language of, I don't want to offend anybody. But remember, we're all equal down here in the non-pure blood land here, not in the non-royalty land. We're all equal.
Yeah.
It's a slave language. It's a language. The reason they call it dog Latin is because when you say when you talk about a dog, or any animal, you're talking about a 4-footed beast. And a 4-footed beast is one for labor. So dogs are used obviously for pulling, sleighs and doing all kinds of different labor. So they call it dog Latin. They call us dogs, in other words, because it's the lowest form. It is the Latin grammatical system laid out in a mongrel form. In English, they call it dog Latin. Right? Then you have the next level, which I can't remember what it's called, which is sort of you could call it the middle management or the upper management, maybe. It's like you're up in the echelon, but you're not quite at the top. Then you have all the way at the top, you have what's called law Latin. And that's what we're talking about. It's what I try to teach in that book, is that this whole system, this whole setup of words that have an inversion. So if I'm speaking in law Latin, it's like the difference between when God speaks and when the devil speaks, right? The devil's going to speak in reverse anything that God speaks. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm going to invert anything that comes from nature. I'm going to make it. So it's Satanism. Satanism really is to take everything natural and turn it into its inverse, or the lie, the illusion, the delusion. Right? It's to destroy truth, basically. Right? So when you're talking about the legal language, or the highest language, imagine having the power. Imagine where power comes from. Well, power comes from language, right? You would never, ever, ever teach your slaves your language, the language of the master. You're never going to teach that which is lower than you your secrets. So if I'm speaking in the serpent tongue, which is to say that I'm speaking in the law Latin, that which inverts all things, right? Turns it upside down and makes it opposite to reality. And we're all down here sincere and thinking that our words really do mean what we say they mean, right? Meanwhile, you're speaking to literally a devil, an attorney, someone who knows the language of inversion, who is speaking the same words as you, but they mean the opposite. Well, here's the problem. As a citizen, as a person, of the United States, you are expected to know all of the law, right? The law that would fill up this room. You're supposed to know all that, right? It's assumed that you understand and that you agree that you understand or stand under the law, and you understand, you comprehend it, and that you're going to speak the language that makes up that law and know the words.
Wow.
Is that you?
Definitely not, bruv.
Is that anybody you know?
Hell no. That's the only. Definitely
Well,
not.
we're stupid enough
Jeez.
to agree to be a person, which means we're bound by the law and must speak the legal language. We're dumb enough to agree to that. I should say we're dumbed down enough. We don't know this whole thing exists. These three levels of the very much alive Latin language that controls everything. Why do you think the Catholics still do services in Latin if Latin is a dead language?
Yeah.
Gotta wonder, right?
Why is it written everywhere as well? In all these important buildings, you see Latin.
Exactly.
Roman numerals
it's not
everywhere.
dead, but it's kind of like political science is another one, man. Political science is so heavily put down that every time you see it in the media or in a movie or in a television, they joke about it, right? And until recently, I never looked at political science because I'm like, well, it sounds dumb. I've literally been trained, brainwashed not to look at what political science is. Boy, you know what? The second I understood the international law, second I understood how we're under international law, not United States law. As soon as I understood the whole big picture, I realized I understood political science. And the reason we're not supposed to look at it is because that's the way the system really works. It's not. I'll put it to you this way: if I'm a slave, let's use slavery, real slavery, as an example. If I'm a slave on a plantation, I'm born there, raised there, taught to work there, and I never leave. Well, then the only law that I'm going to know, I haven't been exposed to the Bible, so I can't be free, right? Don't know that law. I don't know really the law of the common law because I never got taught English, so I don't even have that, right? I just know my basic words, and I can take commands, and I can, right? If I'm never taught anything, if I'm dumbed down or kept from the knowledge, well then, again, why would I then, as your master, who is only your master because I have a language that I speak that you don't know, right? And it controls you because you don't know it. The reason that you cannot, and we're all sitting around going, how do I be free? I'm going to tune into the radio. Maybe some guy on the radio is going to tell me, how can I be free? I've had people actually ask me that question, and I'm like, oh, you can't. It's a mindset. It's your actions. It's not some status, right? If you're going to be free, you're going to have to act the part. So it's a lot. It's difficult to put this into a soundbite that
I know.
Like you said in the beginning, to be easily understood. But you do have to realize, there are these levels of comprehension, and depending on your status, that is what you're exposed to and taught. And the highest level, I don't even know if I know that, but law of Latin, as far as I'm concerned, is the highest level that I deal with, which would be your high level false gods, basically. The wealthy, the elite, the bloodlines, right? The royalty, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And it seems to be quite a big group of people. You know, obviously we talk about the 1%, but in terms of the amount of different families and names, I believe, is it like the peerage names or something like that, that all seem to be linked?
Well, like I said, it's impossible you can't look at skin color, you can't look at region, you can't look at anything. Like all of a sudden some Hollywood actor, for instance, will get married to some obscure, homely looking girl in England. Why? Well, how did this happen, right? So when I did some of my early fascination was genealogy. This is why I know Obama is a white man. Because he is cousins with all the presidents. All the presidents. See, George Washington was the highest Freemason. The Washington arms is a flag of heraldry that's still flown in Washington. That's how. I mean, he was very close to the kingly level, right? Wow. So, he from George Washington, all vice presidents and all presidents since are cousins. Not just, three degrees of separation or whatever, 7 degrees of separation or whatever. No, we're talking like when you look at even people who ran against each other, George Bush and John Kerry ran against each other, and you trace their bloodline. The only reason George Bush came out ahead is because he's one step higher in the chain of going all the way down to Vlad the Impaler. They're both direct descendants of Vlad the Impaler. Not cousins of Vlad the Impaler. They are the bloodline. They are the direct descendants of all the kings of England. Well, so is Abraham Lincoln.
You're saying this Vlad the Impaler, Dracula? Wasn't he called Dracula or something like that?
Right. He was, but he's also part of the royal bloodline. The kings of the kings and queens of Europe, basically.
Wow.
So, yeah, I can send you.
What?
It's one of my blogs. One of my blogs has all this genealogy. Then you go to people like Trump and Hillary Clinton, right? You got the illusion of everything's a lie. Remember, everything's illusion. You got the illusion that Hillary and Trump hate each other, even though they're always seen together before. They're always seen together at parties, and they support each other. And Trump's a big supporter of them. And da-da-da. Suddenly they're running at each other, and they somehow hate each other. Okay, fine, but little problem. They both have the same great grandmother. What? That's how closely related they are.
Is all this information
they're part
hidden?
of the bloodline.
This is hidden. Like, is this information hidden? Like, how did you manage to find out about this when everybody doesn't know?
Well, the problem is, I've been. If there's one thing I will take credit for, it's finding things early. In other words, I'm a little before I put stuff out, and then years later it gets talked about. In this case, look at David Icke's work. Look at anybody that's ever talked about genealogy, they'll point to the peerages, the groups that actually keep track of that. Because you got to realize, remember, we're talking about race, right? Who is? I mean, if you think about who is the only actual so-called racist in the world, well, it would be someone who is high order, like, I don't know, a king or queen, who, when she dies, the crown is passed to the nearest descendant in the chain, right? That is racism in its most blatant, capacity. Yeah. Not guys shooting each other in the street over drugs or whatever, or just pure hate that's been put on them by those people, so that we don't notice that there is a bloodline family whose heraldry you can look at online. It's a little harder nowadays, but no, I put all my sources into I did a show on it. I've got whole pages of genealogical sources, Ancestry.com. What started me on it was a guy named A. Truott took me to because I'm in Utah, and he's one of the biggest, we'll just say, anti-Mormons, because he was one, and found out the corruption. And he took me to the Mormon Genealogical Center. They were Ancestry.com.
Wow.
And the records they have there are incredible. But on this wall was this giant chart. And then over here was this other giant chart. And There's George Bush, there's Abraham Lincoln, there's this, there's John Kerry, there's this,
Jeez.
all these guys. I'm looking at this, and he's going, this is reality. He's
So these are records.
this is how it works. These guys are all of the same family. When you hear, my father came over on the Mayflower, or daughters and sons of the Revolution, or whatever. I mean, all these are people. The difference between someone, like, I can look at my genealogy and maybe I might say, oh, look, I'm a 19th cousin of George Washington, or, right, some distant thing that means absolutely nothing. The question is, why does it mean nothing? Because that would actually mean something if I was in on the secret, in on the bearing your arms, right? The society here that's called the Order of Charlemagne made that clear, where it said that most people who came to America did not bear their arms. They were indentured servants and slaves and people that were escaping religious persecution, etc. That's who came over to America. These were not rich people mostly. They were people who wanted land and people who, right, before the United States ever happened.
They were all
in the 1600s and that kind of thing, right?
They were classed as indentured servants. Is that right?
They what?
They were classed as indentured servants and people like that. That were
sure. I mean, a lot of people were prisoners, and when you're a prisoner, you're basically
a slave.
a slave. Excuse me. But sick. Oh.
Yeah, man.
So there was a special where stars were learning about their genealogy.
You want to get a glass of water? Yeah, get a glass of water, man. It's all good.
Could you excuse me for a moment?
No problem, brother.
Well, anyway, what's his name? The Michael Moore, is that the filmmaker?
Yeah.
Michael. He found out that his father, when they came over here, he came over here as an indentured slave prisoner. Right, so that's his heritage, basically. So I'll be right back.
Yeah, man, no problem, man. Listen, mother lovers, you are in tune right now to some shit you might not never know nothing about. We got Clint Richardson right here. You know what I mean? He's getting some water, but yeah, getting very, very deep. Shout to the people that are locked in. Mr. Green, I see you. Shout to the only way out is in. Yeah, get your questions in as well, man. We'll definitely ask him whatever you want. Shout to BLA, dropping some knowledge bombs as always, man. Big up to Vinny B. Appreciate you, brother, man, for making this happen. Because boy, big up to Gleam, Yamore, all the crew locked in, man. We appreciate each and every one of you. Getting very, very deep. Very, very deep out here. You know what I mean? And what I wanted to say was, yeah, make sure you lot hit up. We posted the, I think it was the blog there, isn't it? The strawmaninfo.com. No, strawman.info.
Yeah, we post. I'll put it up again.
Yeah, we'll put it up again, man. So you can download the book for free, by the way, as a digital, PDF. But also, if you wanted to get the book in, material form, something tangible you can hold. Look at that, it's beautiful as well. Then I'm sure you can order that from the same website. Clint,
yes,
we really appreciate you having you here, man. Because boy, there's, like I was saying, a lot of us might be new to this, and so I think you're definitely giving us some heavy breakdowns on things we can, look at and start to understand a bit more.
Yeah, I think the number one thing that you have to get, if you get nothing else from this, is that all law that is not of the, say, the natural realm, right? All law is attached to the person, the status. So if you're acting in status, then you're under the law of man. And if you just get that, right? In other words, As soon as I step into the Monopoly game, now I'm under the law. I'm the car or the thimble. Now I'm under the law of the game. Right now I've stepped into the simulation. So the question then becomes, right? How do you stop being a person? How do you stop identifying and doing business as and doing all these things, right? That's the question that most people, I want to be free. Do you? Do you really want to be free? Because that'd be the difference. I mean, it's just night and day, right? There's nothing similar about being a free man. And which is why most of the people who have been free men, most of the higher up echelon of the bloodline has always said most men will not choose to be free. Why? Well, it means you have to make a moral choice at all turns. You always must say no. So one thing you can't do in the legal realm is say no, unless it's a choice, a causality that's given to you. You cannot vote, and yet you're still going to get whichever false god is voted, the other fools vote for, right? Yeah. So, yeah, you're not voting, but your not voting is actually an action, right? So you're still participating in the election. You're just doing so as a bystander. You're still watching. You're not doing anything to oppose it. It's still an action, and your action speaks toward being. Silence is not just a concept where nothing happens. You're actually physically remaining silent. It's taking an action. So this is where the Bible again comes into play, because when you start reading about persecution, when you start reading about sell all your goods, for instance, and leave society. When the Bible talks about a lot of things in religion aren't in the Bible. Afterlife, for instance, not in the Bible. Heaven would be earth if we allowed it to be. Instead, we're turning it into hell. Most of these things are again metaphoric concepts that help you understand things. One of those things is the word circumcision. Oh, sorry, I had to say it, man. Circumcision, right? What do you think circumcision means?
It means to snip the old bit off the end.
That's the Jewish custom. It has nothing to do with anything in the Bible, although it is mentioned, right? Two different words, two different meanings, but they used the same word. So that reaction you just had is the reaction you have. What does it really mean? Because if you actually read the thing and said, well, so you're telling me that I have to cut the foreskin off of my penis in order to be Christian? And we have this embarrassing, we're so dumb. That's the problem. And I include myself. Please don't take any offense to that. Until I looked up the word circumcision, and it means to separate. So when it says circumcise yourself from society, from a system of law that is opposed to God's law, suddenly everything makes sense. Oh, I don't have to snip the foreskin off my penis. There's a part in the Bible where it says you must remove the foreskin from your heart. But wait a minute. Do I have foreskin on my heart? No. Listen to me and listen to me good. It's a metaphor.
Okay, so what does that mean then?
It's a metaphor. You must lift the worldly, right? The all the things that make you attracted to bad things, right? What does it say? That will think that what is good is evil and what is evil is good. That's the time we're in right now. lift the veil, lift the foreskin. Foreskin is a metaphor for lifting that which allows you to drift into worldly or evil or temptation, these things that taint the heart, right? So you have a veil, it's like you have a veil over your heart that doesn't allow you to see what is right, basically. So you can't really confuse that with the other kind of circumcision, now can you? Circumcise the foreskin from your heart. So now it makes sense. Separate your heart from what ails it or what keeps it, at bay or in check. That sort of thing. So what we're talking about is if you're going to be free, then you're going to have to do so not while trying to fit in to society, because the only way to fit into society is to participate in its commerce, in its contract, right? In its law.
Yeah.
You can't have two gods. You can't have money or mammon and God. So sell everything and separate yourself, circumcise yourself from it. The nail on the cross. Nail is actually never used as anything but a metaphor. It's fascinating to learn these things.
Nail.
Yeah, the nail of the cross, that kind of thing. That's purely a religious thing. But you have to read the verses and you have to look up, well, what does nail mean? What does this word mean? Right? Why is it being used in this circumstance as a metaphor? Well, first of all, there's no cross. It's pika in the ancient language, which is a pole, right? No cross, just a pole. And there's a verse in there where I would equate it to hanging up a public notice on a pole. See, the way that you still announce things publicly is to post a public notice.
Yeah.
So you can go with the religious version, or you can think more legally, if you will, more reasonably, and that's basically, in other words, leave the worldly things behind. And that's really hard for people to accept when you've grown up in a religious theme. But I mean, all you have to do is read the Bible. And I'll tell you what else the Bible says. I found this quite amusing, because the religious fundamentalist has absolutely no answer for this. And it is, why does the Bible say that you must be crucified? We all must be crucified in order to become, sons of God. Why does the Bible say we must supposedly hang on a cross as Jesus did, right? Why does it say that? Why must we all be crucified?
Yeah, I can't.
There's no answer. Well, maybe I should just leave that one a mystery. Huh?
Would it be to do with a similar thing, as in, it's like you're separating yourself from the world, that, like you said, the world, the meaning before, as in man's world. Would it be something to do with that, and then resurrected in? Well, I'm
gonna see if I have it in my first or my second here. I'm just gonna look this one up.
Yeah, man, things like that. Really makes you realize how much we're not saying to each other, how much we don't understand. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a way of saying.
It's crazy, man.
It's a way of saying. You must kill your straw man. You must kill your persona. You must separate your true self by hanging the worldly person on the cross. In other words, sacrificing all the benefits and insurances and safety
Privileges.
and all the things that come with being a person, all the worldly things, all the legal things, you must hang that on a cross, is what it says. Well, you must crucify it. You must separate yourself from it, is what it actually is referring to. So I was trying to find. I know I have it in the book. I'm just not sure if it's which one it is or which one. I'm going to look for it real quick because it's kind of important to understand, the way these things, actually are defined here. Okay.
Yeah.
And this way, the followers of the false. Let's see. Not crucified in their personal action. The figurative meaning of this word crucify, which is like storos, but it's storu in the Latin, is to crucify the flesh. Well, flesh is another word you have to look up because flesh is the worldly thing that we're talking about. The spiritual self must be set free by crucifying the flesh, is what it's saying. It's metaphoric. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like the inversion that you're talking about. We understand flesh as being...
Exactly. To figuratively, this is the definition from Strong's Concordance, right? Crucify from Strong's G4717. Everything I'm saying is documented, okay?
Just explain.
If you looked at the book, you saw how documented it is, right?
For sure. Could
to
you
crucify
just explain...
the flesh.
Oh, sorry.
And then it says to figuratively. This is the important part because you have to know both. You have to know the literal and the figurative to understand the figurative. Without the literal, right? It's kind of like the devil can't speak in the serpent's tongue unless there's a natural language. The Bible has no use for existence unless there's something opposing it, right? Everything has to have its opposite. Nothing exists without something that opposes it. So figuratively, in Strong's Concordance, it says extinguish or subdue passion or selfishness. Right? Storos means a stake. Storos figuratively means exposure to spiritual death. Another term for self-denial. Well, what is self-denial? Well, after I understood that my identity is not my own, I understand now that I'm in self-denial because I'm denying myself and acting in person. I'm acting as something I am not, which is another thing the Bible says, do not pretend to be something you are not. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm in hypocrisy. I'm in complete state of simulation where I'm acting as a person. I'm acting as a piece on a Monopoly board. I'm in self-denial. These terms are so much more deep and so much like the Greek. I talked to a guy from Greece who learned English and said that there is absolutely no way that you can translate Greek to English because Greek is such an emotional, powerful, spiritual, not passionate, but figurative. Everything. It's poetic.
Yeah, poetic.
Right. It's a romantic. It's everything about it is. It's just passionate about everything. It's just I don't know how to say it. Whereas English is like dead.
Plain, yeah.
And, you have to use so many words to possibly describe something beautiful, right? There's no word for beautiful, and beautiful doesn't mean much, right? It doesn't have a specific concept that makes you feel. It's just a word, right? And that's the difference between these languages is the feeling or the emotional state, the spiritual being that's behind it. So it's very hard to read this in English unless you consider these things. And so, when you're hung on a cross, you're exposed to spiritual death. Now, if you go to the legal language, you have two things. You have spiritual death. What does that mean? In legal language, that means to be in person. To be in person means spiritual death. In fact, let me look it up just to verify.
What the hell, man?
I know. I told you it all completely. It completely intermingles. Like you can't. Yeah. There's no getting around this, right? There's no way to ignore this as coincidence or anything, because I mean it's just so obvious, right?
Yeah. You start to see the
spiritual death. So I said a public notice, right? A notice given to the public generally or to the entire community or to all whom it might concern. And if we're posting something, we're exposed on a post. A storos across by public notice carried in ledger and accounts. So yeah, it's the metaphoric, figurative thing. You have to read the whole thing that way. The other thing you have to know, like people will say, I'm not going to read the Bible. It has unicorns or it has sea monsters. Mm. Well, yeah, but unicorn, the actual term, means one horn. Unicorn, or the Latin equivalent, was a way of expressing an animal like a rhinoceros, a single-horned beast. But those who want to use their own ignorance as an excuse not to know this will say, no, there's unicorns in the Bible. Unicorn is translated as a one-horned beast or rhinoceros, right? Sea monster. Sea monster is what has been put in place of the word. I can't remember the word, but it's for Jonah and the whale, right? Mm. It's Jonah and the sea monster. As in the fictional sea monsters they used to put on maps to warn you away from sailing into the Bermuda Triangle or sailing into somewhere that there's rocks and you're going to crash your ship, right? They'd put a sea monster on the map. Well, the story of Jonah and the whale is actually Jonah being swallowed by a fictional sea monster. But they're going to say, well, I'm not going to read the Bible when I have to believe that Jonah was swallowed by an actual whale and had a conversation thereof. You have to be able to let yourself go. You have to be able to read any other book from the time. Read Gilgamesh. Read, the Odyssey. They're all the same. They all have the same anthropomorphic type of character. You have to do that in order to tell a story. If you were to try to tell a story of the law, no, you couldn't. You have to give it some sort of character. Disney does the same thing with its so-called moral stories, right? The skunk is this, and the bear is this, and they all have a part to play in the story, which you tell the story for a moral purpose. Well, maybe not Disney, but you get the point. It's something that is an ancient art form. The Bible is no different than any other book. And yet, how many people have you met? I don't believe in the Bible. And yet they'll read the Odyssey. They'll read Moby Dick. They'll read anything that is written in the same exact metaphoric, allegoric type of system. But for some reason, the Bible is singled out as being, it's full of lies and it's full of stories and monsters and stuff. And actually, when you start looking into all of those things, which I did, you find out, no, it's not true. Actually, it's just the translation. The translation is purposefully obfuscated and mistransliterated so that you can't read it. You have to look up the meaning. You have to understand both the literal and the figurative to understand the meaning. of the story. And I can't stress that enough. And that's exactly what I did. And I try to teach that in this book, and in my writings and stuff.
And so, you know, in terms of because obviously for a lot of people, the other thing is that religion and the Bible is looked at as, oh, come on, man, you're a Bible basher, you're one of them, you know. You obviously separate, well, I say obviously, but are you separating the two, you know, spirituality and religion? And so you're saying that in this Bible, there is truth, there is reality, but it's been messed with and tampered with.
I'll give you an example of the foolishness, and you got to realize it's all coming from us. Like, take the debates, right? You got the evolutionists and you got the creationists. Okay, the creationists, they take the opinion that the Earth was created at a certain date at a certain time, and it just happened, right? It's just like this incredible thing. And then over here you have the evolutionists, and that they're convinced of this. You know, by the way, the Big Bang Theory was just disproved. I don't know if anybody knows that or not, but that new telescope they built disproved the Big Bang Theory. I didn't read the whole article, but I kind of snickered at it because it's like the religion of science because they can't explain anything. Scientism, I should say. So the evolutionists go by the Darwinism and others, right? None of this having anything to do again with the Bible. But if you take the creationists and you understand what I'm about to tell you, and you take the evolutionists, you understand what I'm about to tell you, you find out that this is all part of the game. This is all part of the cover-up. This is all part of getting you in a mindset that you're not actually reading the Bible. You're just listening to a bunch of a-holes give us your opinion. And what's worse is, remember I told you, God is well-defined. God, the concept of Jehovah, YHVH, is a well-defined thing back in Plato's time. This is pre-biblical, right? The Bible didn't just create this stuff out of thin air. This comes from ancient wisdom, right? Ancient understanding and knowledge. So this term is one of the most beautiful things I ever learned. One of the things that really crossed me over to understanding how dumbed down we are is that Jehovah is actually a verb. It's not just a name. We can argue over how the name's pronounced, and we can say this, and the Jehovah's actually the devil, and right? But it's actually a well-defined, well-understood term that was taken out of the Bible and replaced with the words God and Lord. But imagine the Bible where every time the word God meant Jehovah, it was actually Jehovah. And I'm again, if that pronunciation for some reason bothers you, listen to me carefully. The pronunciation is in dog Latin. We know we're dumbed down to the point where for us to even argue over how "and" is spelled and used, we're too dumbed down for that.
Yeah.
To have a argument over the way to say the name of God, that just shows us how foolish we actually are. Because what is the message? What is the purpose? What is the meaning is what counts. And this is not something that you have a stupid argument over, right? This is a beautiful, beautiful, wonderful spiritual understanding that, as if you know that, then the pronunciation is,
Doesn't matter.
who cares? As long as you understand what I'm saying. And that, I guess, my point is that to read the Bible, like, let me put it this way. Imagine reading any book and that they never tell you who the main character is. They're reading a book about God, but they don't tell you who God or what God is. Well, that's because the knowledge was there before the Bible. They don't have to tell you what Jehovah is because it was understood before the Catholic Church came along and took it out of the Bible. Before the King of England took it out of the Bible, right? It was an understood concept, and it is beautiful. It's a verb, not just a name, and it means, as we were discussing before, it means self-existence and self-evident. All, some people say the universe, some people say life itself, but basically all that exists, and if you understand this, you understand the whole concept of legal law. All that exists that is of God, of Jehovah, that is not man-made. There is what is natural, and there is what is remade in man's image. That's it. There's only two things. There are lies, fictions, inventions, and then over here there's creation. Man cannot create. Man can recreate or invent things out of what already exists. What is, in other words, self-existence? This is why you can't patent what is in nature, or at least you used to not be able to, but even that's getting corrupted now. You can't patent something that appears despite man's existence. In other words, if you understand that everything that is not man-made is God, you are part of God. Your body is the vessel of God. You are the, this is what the Bible says, not me, by the way. That you're, it's so incredible to read these verses and understand that you are not God, I am not God, but we are all equal parts. We are all, and therefore we must respect the whole by respecting all parts. But we we don't do that. This is why you don't want corporations, because corporations are persons too, right? And therefore corporations have the right to destroy what men should be protecting under the highest law. Right? Does that make sense? So if God, as intended in the Bible, so that when you're reading the Bible, you understand, okay, when it's talking about Jehovah, it's really talking about existence, like nature, it's reality, truth. God is truth. Not man's truths, not false truths, not false God. No, we're talking about the reality, right? Reality. That which should be held sacred is truth, and everything man creates should not be held sacred. And yet it's the reverse, especially when it comes to religion and politics. So if you grasp that, and that this whole time you should have been reading the Bible with the knowledge and understanding of this. Imagine writing this whole book and accumulating all this knowledge and not having a meaning for the concept or term. It really doesn't make any sense. Oh, we'll just leave it up to, in 2022, they'll be so smart and so, with it, they'll have, chips in their heads. They'll know exactly what it is, right? They'll have all the knowledge in the world at their fingertips. Well, yeah, but we're the dumbest people in history.
Right. And we're meant to be advanced civilization.
So if you grasp that, man, if you get that, then you can understand that what do we say, setting ourselves free or going back to nature? You're not really going anywhere. You are already part of YHVH. You're already part of it. All you have to do is start acting as yourself. And you'd be surprised how much the Bible refers to acting as yourself and not respecting or acting as something you're not. Not acting in hypocrisy. It's just this amazing it's an amazing thing that I don't know how to express this except to say that, again, the knowledge was withheld both through the language comprehension and through religion. Religion is designed to keep you from a book that should be your law. It's really amazing. And it's not hard to understand once you actually see the meanings and the definitions.
Would that be the same then for the Quran, for people who look at that as, their book?
I believe that if you put aside all the things that are said against the Quran and all the things that are said religiously about the Quran by hypocrites, right? All Christians are hypocrites because no one's acting Christ-like. No one's following Christ's example because they don't know that Christ is a metaphor, an allegory for the logos, right? An ancient term that means the law of God, law of the universe, law of nature, right? You anthropomorphize that into a character who overcomes, and then what does the Bible say? You can only come to God through Christ. Well, I can only follow if I follow the law of God, which is the example of Christ, then I'm worshiping Jehovah. In other words, I'm not accepting any lies, any false, any artifice or anything. Now, the Quran is one of those books that I have it on my shelf. I think I have 2 versions, but that I'm almost afraid to go into because it's been so demonized and it's been so it's been made so extreme and unextreme. I have a feeling it's the same thing. So I have a feeling it's going to be the same kind of adventure where you're going to have to go in and you're going to have to forget everything that people are saying. And you realize these guys know nothing. I mean, these debaters, right? They know nothing. So you're going to have to go in and you're going to have to take the Quran and you're going to have to do exactly what I did, which is take whatever the concordances are for the Quran and whatever was the original intention. The problem with the Quran, I think, is that you're going to find the mosques and the Christian churches are always together in all the countries. And I have a feeling that the Quran was used to Christianize in a bad way the Muslim world. But that is something that I'm not an expert in. I'm not going to sit here and say one or the other. It is one of those things that I will get to eventually, and then I'll have your answer. But I recommend if you really want to know, don't take my word for it, anybody else's word for it, because like I said, everything I'm saying, I've documented in my book, and you can verify yourself. Anything I say about the Quran, I have no source for, so I can't say. All I have is hearsay and propaganda that I've heard since I was a kid. So I'm not the person to ask, but I'm assuming that it is a book of law, that if you read it, it'll tell you what not to do. and it's very similar to the Bible, with a different archetype, with a different example to follow.
And
so, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything about that because I don't know, honestly.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah,
but here's the funniest thing I've found is to make you understand that the debate thing is take the atheist. You got to understand that an atheist is someone, when you look up the meaning of the word, now you might have your own meaning and you might, right? Just like people say, I have my own meaning of anarchy, but anarchy means one and only one thing. It never has meant anything different, which is lawlessness. It says no ruler. Well, that's lawlessness. No God, no nothing. You don't want that. So anarchy, I wrote a whole thing on it, had debates on it. It's a absolute commercial entity that people are making a lot of money off, but it has nothing to stand on, right? Yeah. Nothing to stand on. So it's a non sequitur. But when you actually confront the atheist, you say, okay, here is the definition of atheist. Now, again, you might be making up your own meaning, which is very problematic because that means you're creating a new word that I'm not familiar with. You're trying to tell me that a word that is so well defined throughout history up until this day, even in modern dictionaries, means something else. And I'm supposed to trust you as the guru of anarchy or atheism that your meaning is the correct meaning. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm gonna look at history. I'm gonna look at sources. I'm gonna look at every different sources, and I'm gonna come to my own conclusion about what it means. There's no point where it says it's something good or that it's gonna save the world or whatever. But when you're talking about an atheist, a self-proclaimed atheist, right? This is defined as one who does not believe in the existence of God. Someone that does not believe in the existence of God. Now, what did I just tell you Jehovah means? Were you listening?
Yeah. I remember. So
well,
they're saying
it's right in the sentence. Someone that does not believe in the existence of existence. Someone that does not believe in the existence of existence. Wait a minute. That's nihilism.
It's nuts.
That's not anything. It's again a non sequitur. I'm an atheist. Well, have you thought about, right? What does that actually mean? I don't believe in the existence of God. Well, okay. The whole reason there are atheists is because this term YHVH has been lost to people. Would I say I don't believe in God if God meant to exist? I mean, I wouldn't say that. Even if I was dumb, I wouldn't. I mean, it doesn't make sense to say I don't believe in the existence of existence, right? So that's what atheism is. It's a non sequitur, a circular reasoning that means absolutely nothing, and it takes you again away from the Bible, this book of law. So you've got either religion or you've got atheism, both of them designed to take you away from what the Bible actually says. All right, so now let's take the debaters. You got the creationists and you got the evolutionists. Well, existence is an ongoing or never-ending action. It's a verb. Again, Jehovah's a verb. It's an action. It's existence didn't start and end. Creation didn't start and end at some point. Creation is an ongoing thing. It is life itself, right? Creation, it's not meant to be, I made a papier-mâché ball, called it Earth, and all is good. Which is actually why, the Old Testament story is actually the Elena Emnish, which I have in the book, and it's actually the Babylonian creation mythos. And if you read that, you'll be like, oh my God. It's a really dumbed down version of the Babylonian creation story. Babylon not being a good thing. Because it's the Old Testament, not the New Testament, right? So you're talking about creation as if it was a singular event. Because we've been dumbed down and we cannot think outside of that type of box. Where that's a two-dimensional thought process, whereas creation as an ongoing three-dimensional process, or four-dimensional, or how many dimensional? I guess dimension is probably not the right word, but as existence itself is the act of creation and recreation. That, and then there's the apologetics. Well, creation could have lasted 1,000 years, right? Well, no, it's never ending. The definition of Jehovah is never ending existence, life itself, right? We're all part of it. And this agrees with every other spiritual, Buddhism, all those different types of religion. That is the same concept that goes throughout all of them, because the word was understood. It might be a different word or name in every culture, but it's an understood concept, except in our culture. And then you have the evolutionists. Well, same thing. If evolution is a fact, a truth, then it's part of the cycle. You're not wise because you figured out that things adjust to different climates. You're just pointing out the obvious, right? So the whole thing is a false dichotomy. It's a false argument. It's because, and this is the part that gets me real frustrated, it's an argument against the lack of understanding of the meaning of the word God, where we're all left, because of religious interference, we're left with no meaning, no mutual understanding of the word itself, and we're all left to the art of the church, or the what is it that I believe God is? How many times have you heard that conversation where, well, I believe God is this, or he's portrayed as a man? Well, of course you have to anthropomorphize to tell the story. Yeah. But it's a well-defined term. And so the whole argument between these people is secular. It's completely made up. It's their own personal vision. Now, switch to entertainment. In almost every show, every movie, the situation, there's some situation where they mention this concept of creation versus this, or I don't believe in God because God couldn't be so cruel, or it's always this generic concept of an unknown God or an undefined God. And I really want to get that across, that when reading the Bible, you cannot ever allow anything to be undefined, especially the main freaking character, the creator. I mean, you can't not know what it means, and it's well defined. And I just want you to know that this information is there for those that are brave enough and spiritual enough, and those who realize what I've said is self-evidently true. Talking about the straw man, and talking about the Bible being against the straw man, the person, talking about all of this and how it's in. If you don't believe me, that's great. You continue in the matrix. You continue in the delusion. And be someone important, like an actor or a rapper or a sound engineer, right? But if you really want to understand, and forget your idea of freedom, but if you want to have an understanding, at least, of what freedom is, well, then you have to be able to, I'll put it to you this way. Government, as I said, believes in God. Government believes in a higher power than itself. It says things that happen are an act of God that man can't control. It acknowledges the higher law. The Bible is said in dictionaries that I've read, it was part of the common law. It's the foundation, right? The principles of law, maxims. So you can ignore that, even though it's on the record still, or you can say, look, I've been misled. I've been completely fooled. And the ticket out of this simulation, this hypocrisy, is sitting on everyone's shelves, or if not, it's the number one best-selling book. It's in every hotel, et cetera, right? It's everywhere. Why? Because it's the law. You have to have access to the law in order to be tricked into ignoring it and falling into contract. They have to give it to you. They can't just hide it. And so they do everything they can to obfuscate it and put it in a language you don't understand. But remember, the guys that know the law Latin understand it. It's just you that don't understand it because you've not had, all the time that I've had to look into it. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. We're all too busy with secular things to possibly tend to our spiritual needs. And we are in a spiritual war. There's a war against the spirit. There's a war against nature. There's a war against truth. And we're failing. We're we're losing in a big way, in case you haven't noticed.
Right, you're telling me, man. Definitely see it out there. Crazy, man. Crazy. Clint, man.
I hope that's what you wanted to hear, because I don't have my
No, definitely, man. I think you broke down a lot of different truths for us. And we've posted the strawmanstory.info website for people that want to find out a bit more. You can download the book for free, right? But make a donation. Absolutely. At least. I mean, the amount of
all my work has been free for 15 years. So all the movies and all the shows, everything. I've done over 1,000 shows.
Serious hours.
It's crazy.
Crazy. I've been listening to the what am I on? I think I'm about episode 107 or something on your the archives. What is it called? The
Corporation Nation.
Corporation Nation. Yeah, that's it. Archives.
Is it still relevant? I mean, I never listen to my own stuff.
Well, the thing is, one thing we've learned is, like, obviously you got to go back into history to really find out what things really mean. And so I think in that sense it does. There's still, I wonder now, because like I said, I was listening to the Red Pill Sunday stuff first, and then I went back to that, and it seemed like I noticed there are probably people you don't even talk to or whatever, and getting you've obviously been in situations where there are other people saying this is the truth and this is how I'm going to help you, but you're here saying, look, no one's going to be able to help you with this. Like, no matter how much money you pay them or how much you learn from them, they tell you, I'm going to get you some kind of remedy. And so, obviously all of that must have been a bit crazy for you, but a lot of it is still very relevant. I do wonder do you know people now that are sort of out of the system in the way that you're saying, and it's working for them?
Well, that's just it. I can safely say that nobody at this point. Now, if I were to go back and listen to my shows, I'd probably cringe, because that was my learning process, right? I mean,
which was
I was basically some of my blogs I'd like to rewrite, because I know some of it is factually incorrect. It's something I believed because I heard it in the truth movement. Therefore, it must be true. Yeah. And so there's a lot of stuff that I have to retract some things, because we have, like I said, we have the slave mentality where we have an internal view of things instead of an international or external view. Once I looked past the internal law of the United States, I mean, you're in England, is that right?
Yeah, London.
Well, see, what I found out just recently, because I started looking at international law, and I'll tell you, I mean, this is important. Before you start looking into remedies and stuff, most of which I've proven as being false, and no, I have not met anybody that's out of the system. The only people I've met are people who people like, Donald Trump, who uses the system, uses bankruptcy the correct way, and makes a lot of money from it, right? These kind of things. The whole system of law is set up for criminals. If you want to act like a criminal, you want to use Uniform Commercial Code, you want to use all those things that criminals use, go right ahead, but don't believe you're free. All you're doing is participating in the evil, and you're harming other people, and eventually it's going to catch up to you. They're going to find out that you've done something stupid that's against the law. My recent videos, I've actually shown how most of the redemption stuff is illegal. It's on the FBI website. It tells you it's a felony. It's pretty amazing, actually, that it's really easy to believe that there's some magical rainbow that you can follow, and at the end of that rainbow, there's a pot of gold and freedom. Well, let's take a step back and realize there is no rainbow. It's an optical illusion. And that's what the truth movement really is. That's what the patriot movement really is an optical illusion of a time that doesn't exist anymore. Why doesn't it exist is the problem, and that's the long and short answer is the United States. Once the United States was created or constituted, It's the nation state model. Again, political science. So I got some news for you people in England. And I got some news for you people in Scotland. And I got some news for you in, which ones? Is it Northern Ireland or Southern? I can't remember.
Northern Ireland.
Well, you're no longer internationally recognized as separate countries. There's only the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
Okay, California, New York, all the original colonies, all the things we're all romantic and patriotic about, those are no longer recognized internationally. There's only the United States. Okay?
Wow.
There are no states. There are no states' rights. There's nothing. That is a completely internal view of things. But when you get out into the international realm, which is what the Constitution was for, to make a nation state within the rest of the nation states. For the last 400 years, every country in the world was tricked into first becoming a republic. Let's see, Republic of China, Republic of Russia, Republic of Korea, Republic of this, Republic that. Everybody's a republic. And in America, we think that's romantic. Oh, we're a republic. Well, that means self-governing. That means you're able to control yourself. You know a lot of people that are controlling themselves? You know a lot of people that are self-governing and not dependent and sucking on the teat of government? I don't. Okay? Well, the international law does not recognize England as a country anymore. Okay?
Wow.
England doesn't exist. The United Kingdom does. Because that's what the international body is. That alone should be absolutely shocking to people. But what's even more shocking is me, and I'm like, wait a minute, Utah isn't a state, California isn't a state where I'm from. Wait a minute, what is this going on? And it turns out that in order to be part of the United Nations, in order to be a nation state, in order to be considered a state, in other words, you have to have conquered a territory or purchased in a real way, not in the legal way, purchased a territory. It turns out purchase and conquer mean the same thing. You know, if I sell my soul, it's the same as if it's conquered, right? I mean, it's just a different form of conquering is to buy something, right? So, how does the international body recognize a nation or a nation state or a state? It is a conquered territory. Well, guess what? You ever heard of the Louisiana Purchase? That means Louisiana, the territory that was in that pact, that purchase, was conquered. In this case, it was purchased, taken over, right? Just like when I purchase something, I purchase the rights. And, so then, and only then, were states made out of that territory. To make a state, the people of the territory that's conquered or purchased have to appeal to the government. The Congress then creates it, and the president signs the state into existence. Does that sound like a state is somehow higher than the United States? If the United States creates states, where does this idea of sovereignty come from? Well, it's a lie. It's one of the many patriot mythologies that I'm discovering as I go through international law and I start understanding this. And so when you look, well, that means England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland or whatever, are conquered people, conquered territories.
That's Wales as well, isn't it?
Right. Well, who's your conqueror is the question you should ask. Is it the royal family?
Yeah. Well,
because here's my theory. And this is theory. My theory is that all countries were turned into nation states by the royal family because there was this revolutionary time where people wanted to be free from that system, that feudal system. And our system is so much like the feudal system now that it's almost scary. That's kind of what my purpose of my book was, to show that it's a pirate cove, a big feudal system, but we just don't realize it. And My theory is that the reason that all the presidents are direct descendants of the kings of England, and the reason that all prime ministers and the reason that all the royal families around the world seem to have this relation, the reason that all actors are part of the royal family, any of them that are big and have clout, right? Tom Hanks, direct descendant of Abraham Lincoln. So all of this this whole thing, how were the countries taken over again by this Roman Empire? Well, the royal families created nation states. The Constitution was basically the initiation, and the Civil War was the action that created the nation state, the international body that became the state in the international order, right? So, how did the royal families take back over all the countries? First, they were tricked into becoming self governing entities, which they knew they'd fail. And then the nation state, the constitutions, which are all Masonic, got introduced into all the republics, and all the republics became nation states. And as soon as, the nation became its own entity. The union of the provinces, the union of the states, the union of the countries eventually became the country or the state. Does that make sense?
Yeah, United. We're like the United Kingdom, so yeah, the Union.
And all of those are ruled by the royal families. Like it or not, all of our presidents, Biden included, are part of the royal family. The only one I haven't looked at is, because she's new, is Kamala Harris.
Yeah, Kamala Harris. Wow. Jeez, man.
So that's my theory. Just that last part is the part I don't have. It's speculative. It's showable, but it's not. How do you explain why every president is, and every high order actor and CEO and etc. are bearing their arms as part of that royal family? How do you explain it other than that's how the world was taken over, through nation states, through political science, the basis of political science, which we don't learn. It's made fun of. Now, what's interesting about that is, I was just saying, James Montgomery and The Informer were guys that I actually was reading when I first started out. I tried to get The Informer and James Montgomery to come on my show back in 2013, the ones you're listening to now. And they wouldn't come. They said, "Oh, no, we're not in the movement anymore. We don't believe in it anymore. We Once you read and discover the law of nations, once you understand international law, you start asking questions that, like in school and in religion, can't be answered, right? You start asking, well, wait a minute. There's nation states. California is not recognized as a state. England doesn't exist as a state. Right, you're all been corporatized and put into commercial law, international law. We all agree to it at every end user agreement and contract we sign. We don't have to sign them anymore. Just press a button. Wait a minute, or just if you use something, you're under its contract because you're a user. I don't know what to say except this is how we've been purchased or we've sold out. We're a conquered people. Now, if you take that position that we're actually prisoners of war, that's why the Lieber Code was created from the Civil War, is how to treat all the prisoners of war that are called citizens.
That's a whole nother.
The problem is that the Lieber Code, the rules of how to treat prisoners, because the Confederacy was never recognized as its own nation state in the international model, so it never got any rights or anything. So they created this rules on how to govern prisoners of war. And one of the things it says in the Labor Code, and it's been codified, is that the government as it exists at the time of conquering will remain in place as sort of a model or a way of allowing people the easiest adjustment into the conqueror's, new government. And that the conqueror, United States, because it became its own entity, its own nation state, a foreign thing in Washington, D.C., as it's not one of the states, just like United Kingdom. Where does it exist? Right? So the nation state conquers the land, that takes over the territory, takes over purchases, does all that stuff. We're not even aware it's happening. And suddenly the United Nations is like the new United States, the new United Kingdom, except that every country in the world, through the nation state model, the corporation that was put on top of the real is now controlled through the United Nations. And that is how the royal families took back over the world, in my opinion.
That is interesting, man. It flows. It makes sense as well. But how long ago was
that's the real
this?
problem, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the scary
logical.
part. It makes a lot of sense. How long ago was this put together then? Is this when the United Nations was started?
So I put that in my newest videos. I made 2 and I'm making a 3rd one. The Treaty of Westphalia was 400 years ago. And the first country that was actually never a country but born a nation state was actually Switzerland. So it never even went through the process. It was just created as a nation state. And so what they're doing now, and so over the years, like you said, everything became a republic. Like everybody was somehow fooled. It's probably a project I'll look into sometime, is when did each country become a republic, and when did each country then get sort of usurped by its own son, like its own creation, its own invention, its own government. It went from being like the United States, right? It's a compact between states. Now all of a sudden it's its own government. Wait a minute. The United States is supposed to be every state in a compact to protect one another, but now it's a government. It became its own state to rule over all the other states. When did that happen in all the other countries? Well, since the signing of the Treaty of Westphalia, apparently that's how long it's been happening. 400 years.
Right.
So,
man. Yeah, so they obviously work generationally as well. They make sure whoever they're handing it down to knows what the play is, knows what the game plan is. Boy.
Well, and let's not forget, knows what the language is.
Yeah. Ladies and gents, man, that's Clint Richardson right here. If you want more info, how can people get hold of you, or check out the blog and whatnot? What are the links that?
I've been.
Yeah, I know.
I've been canceled and
censored
and all that. My blog is still up there, and if you type in exactly reality blogger with 1 G.
Oh yeah.
realityblogger.wordpress.com. There's like 200 something articles up there that I've written, various topics, mostly this type of stuff. Just trying to explain things in layman's terms,
Yeah.
And otherwise, YouTube has taken down 3 of my movies. Those can be seen on BitChute and Odyssey. Same thing, Red Pill Sunday School.
Yeah.
Is the channel name. Other than that, I had to take the Corporation Nation down because someone went in and changed all the links and just polluted it with porn and other things and malware and that kind of stuff. So I just took it down because I don't know enough to go in and take away all that code and leave what's right. So it's from this point on, I'm going to have to do something different because, even my email is attacked to where I can only send 1 email at a time. If I try anything else, they label me as a spam and take away all my email privileges. If I want to send 1,000 people an email, I'll have to do it 1 at a time. So I have to rethink things and maybe come up with a new website.
Go on the dark.
And by the way, if anybody is out there that wants to make a real simple website, I am intent on writing some more books, getting them in a physical form, because who knows when the internet's just going to disappear. All my work's just going to disappear. And I'd like to put all my work on a thumb drive and give it away for as cheap as possible.
Wow.
Just
be
to
crazy.
preserve because I've done all
Yeah.
this research and I'd like to preserve it at least,
When he's talking about 15 years as well, it's hours and hours of information. Like, I've seen it.
Well, and
I don't
that's
know what
just
the
the
hell.
writing part. Think about how long it took to the discovery part, the thought process behind it all. Now, if you want to do another show that's equally kind of eye-opening, one of the things that actually brought me to, I don't know, I'm going to hold this up. Have you seen that?
Only in the Matrix.
No.
Huh?
It's in the it's the book that they wrote, the Matrix, or they tried to base the Matrix.
Well, it's the book that they very
got it wrong.
Very intentionally, oppositely, they plagiarized it.
Yeah.
This is a warning about those two things, which, if you look up simulacra, it's kind of a hard concept, but simulation just means hypocrisy, which is what we're all in. Simulacra is a completely different thing. But I want to rewrite this book because it's a French postmodernist guy who amazing work. But I've read it like 12 times, and I have to. Every sentence is like this splash of emotional knowledge that's really hard to retain. So I want to actually write down everything in a book form. My problem is, obviously I'm not going to get published. I've already been banned. I have to do everything myself. That book that you have, they're mine. I didn't publish them. I didn't do it. They're in my garage. And I have to mail them myself, and it's a lot of work. You can't find it anywhere else. It's not on Amazon, and that's how I have to work. I have to work underground because, it's not possible for me to put this out there. I'm still going to try, but I seriously doubt it's going to happen. So I have to get them printed, store them, and mail them myself, the old-fashioned way, which is interesting, because if you're not bound by copyright laws or anything else, I'm not selling them. I'm giving them away and asking for donations. So it's that church model, that religious model. So it's an interesting way of doing it, to be able to write anything you want, never be censored. Not only is it freeing, but it's also a huge responsibility, because you don't want to, your mistakes are there forever. You don't want to mislead people, etc.
Yeah.
So it's something, man. It's really, I guess the point is, my book, not approved by church and state. And I'm damn proud of it.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you, man. Thank you very much, Clint, man, for coming through.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
That's definitely
very
deep dive, man.
Yeah.
That was a deep ass dive.
Well, have fun deciphering it all.
You trust me, man. I'm gonna get through this book, man. Even if it kills me, I'm gonna get through this thing. But if anyone, so we've posted the links in the chat room, man. Common Senses. Shout out to everyone that was locked in. I think
just remember one thing, man. A lot of the comprehension and stuff, it doesn't come from reading. It comes from thinking about and really mulling over what you read. Really trying to apply it, really trying to actualize it. Realizing that your ego is always going to get in the way, that all the misinformation is always going to be there, all the doubts and everything, but mulling it over in your head, looking for that self-evident truth, which is, again, self-evidence and self-existence, definition of God. You look for the things that just spark truth, and everything else just kind of needs to go out the window, right? Not man's truth, but that self-evidence, and it's kind of hard to explain. But once you start looking for it and seeing it, and seeing everything else as a lie or a fiction or whatever, it really, I mean, again, you can't come back from it, And that's, again, when you realize you're in a simulation, you're knowledgeable about how to be free, but you don't have the strength of the will or the spirit left to really do it. And that is why my goal still is to form some sort of safe zone or monastery or something where people can go and actually have a place to be free of the worldly things, to study and to learn and to actually try to act according to the example. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's beautiful, man.
So,
definitely, man.
Yeah.
I think it's another thing people should ponder on as well, like to look within and find that spirit as well, man. Thank you very much, Clint. We appreciate you, man. It's a school night, so our listeners are probably ready to go to bed now. But we appreciate you coming through. And, man, if we could do it again, man, we'd love to. I'd love to go through a session of just, like, really explaining. There's a lot of words that have popped up, during listening to your show. Like I said, with that lady, Tammy Pepperman, there was a lot of stuff in that was heavy. And so I think it'd be important for people to understand how many, so many different words that we hear them in a certain way, but they really mean this. Like the first one people come up with is the whole understand and standing under. But I'd love to do that with you if you'd be available at some point, man.
Absolutely. But, like I said, just think of it as the truth speaks and the lie inverts. It's like. And it's a constant battle between those two powers, if you will.
Yeah.
So, all right, guys, thank you so much, man.
Thank you very much,
Appreciate
man.
the time.
Appreciate that, man. Yo, that was Clint Richardson right there, man. Some shit you might never know. I know you definitely know nothing about Mother Lovers. Yo, we appreciate everyone that was locked in for that, man. Myself, MysDiggi, Dan DNA. That was
heavy
deep,
session.
Right? That was heavy, boy. I told you, lot, man. We were gonna go deep diving. Snorkel gear ain't gonna work with this shit, you know what I mean? Now we're going deep. Appreciate everyone that was locked in. Vinny B, thank you very much for making it happen, brother, man. Serious, like, that was like an honor. Serious, man, because so many, like we're saying, there's so many people that say this, so many people say that, but this was one guy where I was like, and you lot see it there, like he speaks and it sounds a lot more like it makes sense as to what's going on, and he lays the truth like that. There's not really a way of getting out of it unless you really get out of it, unless you really unplug. You know what I mean? So we'll definitely post all the links and that in the description as well for the late listeners. Thank you for everyone that was locked in. I've got a shout out to the cmossboss.co.uk, of course, before we go. Make sure you hit them up if you want to get 100% organic wild-crafted sea vegetables, and we're talking all types of sea vegetables from wakame to sea moss to bladderwrack to dulse, a whole heap of different types of vegetables fresh from the sea, 100% wild-crafted, not farmed on ropes like most others on the market. Hit them up, and when you get to the checkout, make sure you type in about 20. That's ABOUT 20 to get yourself 20% off any order that you get from the cmossboss.co.uk. You mother lovers should know by now, but there are so many benefits when it comes to sea moss. Obviously, things like it's good for the heart, good source of iodine, can help you with weight loss. Like I say, if you want to start fasting, sea moss is a good way to go. Boosts your immunity, supports gut health, can build muscle, you know what I mean? Thyroid health, if you feel like, you need to secrete, your thyroid's not working right, you know what I mean? Get on them sea veg. And make sure you hit them up, man. That's the cmossboss.co.uk. And it's about 20 for 20% off. Yo, ladies and gents, man, it's a school night. I understand. I appreciate you lot hanging out, you know what I mean? lasting this long for this one, but man,
Obviously, it's because someone overseas, different times.
yeah, it's the time
and all
zone
that,
thing. So
when we get them, it has to run a little bit later.
yeah, man, and we'll get it right. And the amount of info that this guy can just like share with us, I think it's good because it gets you going, and now you'll start finding like looking for your own path, what you find interesting. For me, definitely the etymology and stuff like that, like the fact that words can mean so many different things, and then even breaking them down into something, like one word could be a sentence type thing. That's all crazy stuff, man. But big up the crew then, man. All the common senses, Turbo Tubalicious, you're more. Yep, Vinny B. Yes, thanks again, brother. Mr. Green, yes, man. Shout to BLA, DJ Lock. You know what I mean? Wait, the common senses were there, boy. Who is it? Someone was dropping a few gems as well. Shout to the Master Detective. He's got to do some detective work after, so he's not always here.
No,
till late.
He works at night.
Yeah, I mean. Shout to Gabby. Thank you very much for locking in, man. We appreciate everyone appreciating the conversation right here on some shit you might not never know nothing about. It's about that time, though. Make sure you have a good week. We'll be back next week with Apex Zero. He's got a very special release coming up, and we've definitely got to talk to him about that. Shout to The Only Way Out Is In as well. Locked in. You know what I mean? And all the people on the streams as well. Shout to Gleam. That'll be tuning in later on or whatever on what's it called? Pod, iTunes.
Yeah. Castbox, iTunes.
Yeah, that's it.
What's the other one called? Anchor FM and
Anchor FM, mate.
And the other one. What's the other one? Spotify. Of course. We're on all them.
Right.
So.
Yeah, Anchor FM, mate. You know what I mean? All you anchors out there, we'll be out here with you, mate. Right. Thank you very much for tuning in, man. We appreciate all you mother lovers. Appreciate Clint Richardson for what he's done and what he's doing and what he's about to do, man. Just try and support him as much as you can in any form of way, and make sure you stay locked in. We'll be back next week. You know how it is. My name is MysDiggi. That's Dan DNA. There's some shit you might not never know nothing about. Guess what, mother lovers? We're out.